Blog Talk Radio.
Namaste, everyone. This is Nature of Reality Radio on Memorial Day, May 30th, 2016, the unofficial start of the summer season. This is your host, Andrew Fisher, broadcasting normally Wednesdays from the suburbs of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today I will be doing a Monday Memorial Day show from noon to 3. And by the way, the first 2 hours will be live feed. The third hour, I'm sure I'm going to need more than 2 hours to do this. The third hour, if anybody wants to listen, you will have to call into the show. The call-in number is 646-478-4747. On the show today, I will be doing part 2 of an article critique that I did about 4 weeks ago. I was going to have a guest this past Wednesday, but that guest, Candace Carl Goldman of QHHT, Dolores Cannon fame, had to postpone because of a family emergency issue of sorts, and she will be coming on the show in July. So now I'm going to be doing 2 shows in 3 days. We'll have another show this upcoming Wednesday. And but for this show, it'll be, again, an article critique for an article on in5d.com called The Controller's Agenda Exposed, an Inconvenient Harvest. And topics on this show that I will cover, and this is a these are all the subtitles in the article. The topics for this show will be the Crystal Skulls, the Knights Templar, the Pharaohs, the Talmud of Emmanuel, the Universal Laws, the Agenda of the Illuminati, the Mayan Calendar, the Physics of Ascension, our Hollow Earth, the Hollow Earth Model, the Inner Earth Culture, the View from Above, the Beginning, Forces of Dark, First Contact, the Galactic Federation, and a quick brief summary of everything. Again, those are the sub-article titles within the main article. I did about half the article, the last show critique. I talked as fast as I could, and I still could only get about half the article done in 3 hours. But first, before we do that, as usual, we will do the news courtesy of Alex Jones and Company at InfoWars. First article, video, Americans have no idea what Memorial Day is. San Diegoans think military holiday is about LGBT issues, Neil Armstrong, the emancipation. Memorial Day is supposed to be about paying respect to those who fought and died while serving their country to protect the freedoms that Americans enjoy. But in this interview that Mark Dice did, going through the streets of San Diego, he found that Americans who are lost in a trance don't know shit about what the holiday is supposed to be about. I mean, one could make the case that it's a phony holiday because all the wars throughout history are illusions, since the bankers and the corporations and the secret societies that control the Illuminati controlled and funded both sides of the wars, or all the sides of the wars if there was more than 2 sides, to get the outcome that they wanted. And all these soldiers that were going off to war, that we pay tribute to on Memorial Day, they were saying that they were serving their country, protecting the freedoms, but in a sense they were serving the powers that be and protecting, or should I say, serving the agenda of the powers that be to get rid of freedoms. So it's supposed to be about paying respect to those who fought and died while serving their country, because the military should be serving their country and protecting freedoms. But because this world is an Alice in Wonderland, well, I shouldn't say it is. It still is, but here in 2016, where the Archon control system is greatly cannibalized itself, since it's been doing since 2011, and that's not me talking, that's Akashic Records reader Andrew Bartz talking. It's been cannibalizing itself ever since. We're still on a prison planet here in 2016, but at this rate, with people waking up exponentially and things being changed and everything, it should only be a matter of years before the control system falls apart and everything, and maybe we won't even need a military anymore. But the point of this article, Americans don't know what it's about because they're lost in a trance and they're ignorant and all the rest of it. Next article, Trump slams, quote, embarrassed loser, unquote, Crystal over third-party threat. Warns that dummy lightweights must be countered with party unity. GOP nominee Donald Trump has blasted Weekly Standard editor and arch neocon Bill Kristol, not to be confused with the actor Billy Crystal, calling him an embarrassed loser after Kristol promised there would be a third-party challenger to Trump in the presidential race. Kristol took to Twitter Sunday suggesting that he is in the process of grooming an independent candidate to challenge Trump in November. Yes, the establishment is scared to death of Donald Trump because he is not part of the establishment, not part of their secret societies and such, and there are a few things that he supports that some people may disagree with, like eminent domain and trying to ban all Muslims from coming to America and building a humongous wall at the border, which many would say is not necessarily the best way of handling a border issue. There's other ways to secure the border besides building a humongous wall. But for them to try to get a third-party candidate to challenge him or maybe try to draw votes from him, that shows just how scared they are. And now, Donald Trump, you don't have to be such a jerk about this, mocking Crystal and all that. But I guess this just goes to show how desperate the powers that be are. So maybe Trump, just for the hell of it, he might call him an embarrassed loser and names like that. But Trump, don't let your ego get the best of you, because many people who love you still say that because you're a multi-billionaire, you will not be able to control your ego and you will not be willing to negotiate and not faithfully execute the laws passed by Congress, which is what the president is supposed to do. And Donald Trump, they say, will not negotiate with Congress because he's a multi-billionaire. Well, Trump, I encourage you, this is a kick in the pants. Please prove everybody wrong and try to control your ego and show them that even rich people can stand up for the little guy and do what they're supposed to do, and answer to Congress and respect when Congress overrides presidential vetoes and such. Next article, ISIS is now going into online sex slave business. Meanwhile, feminists wage war against man-spreading. The woman is young, perhaps 18, with olive skin and dark bangs that droop onto her face. In the Facebook photo, she attempts to smile but doesn't look at a photographer. Hasn't ISIS always been in the sex slave business? ISIS, which is controlled by the U.S. government and the powers that be, and they give ISIS weapons and such to carry out their dastardly terrorist attacks and all the rest of it. And now this man-spreading, isn't that where when men spread their legs across just to make themselves comfortable on like a subway train or any public transportation or in public or something, and women will give these men grief about doing that, saying that man spreading looks really uncool when all the man is trying to do is relax and just spreading their legs apart, not trying to show their dick, just making themselves comfortable. And I believe Mark Passio talked about man spreading at the recent Free Your Mind conference that I was at. So, by the way, I just realized I didn't get the chat open. Shame on me. Let me get the chat open here. See if there's anybody listening. A lot of people are probably out doing barbecues and such, but I'm sure there's a few listeners here. No, not at the moment. There aren't. Not a particularly great day to be turning into a radio this day and hours, but that's okay because all my shows get archived on YouTube, and a lot of my listeners seem to enjoy listening to shows that I do by myself, as the view count relative to other view counts are for shows I do alone. So I'm sure that this will get a large amount of listeners when I upload it to YouTube. But anyway, enough of that article. Next article, flooding, severe weather devastate Texas. 9 inches hit Austin. 6 people died, and at least 2 others were missing Sunday after heavy rains in Texas and Kansas caused severe flooding. As George Cavazos says, whenever there's severe weather or a hurricane or something like that, you really shouldn't think that it's HAARP or weather modification technology, because if you think that HAARP did it, you're giving your power to the powers that be and giving them energy and strength just by thinking that they're the ones who did it. Never underestimate the strength of Mother Nature and the ability for Mother Nature to cause great storms and stuff like this. So I guess this is... I guess they're talking about this on Infowars.com because, well, this is in their area and they're from Texas. But we had some nice flooding up here in the Philadelphia suburbs. Well, not flooding, excuse me. Some nice rains, lovely downpours this past night. We needed that because it was a couple days of 90-degree weather and kind of hot for this time of year. So the moral of the story, don't think that the government weather modification technology did it right off the bat. Try not to obsess about that because you'll give them their power. But when you think about that, but still never rule out the possibility that HAARP may have caused it. But enough of that. Next article, mind reading could soon be a reality. Thoughts into speech. A mind reading machine that can translate thoughts into speech is coming closer to reality. There is a video about this on Infowars.com. You guys are more than welcome to check it out. Mind reading, well, it could soon be a reality. It already is a reality if you're a psychic and such. And also I talk about on my show the higher dimensional entities from other dimensions and densities from levels of consciousness above us that are more service to others oriented than we are. Those entities, call them aliens if you want, but I prefer not to use that title in this case. I prefer entities. Those entities from higher consciousness, they can read your thoughts, but because they follow unconditional love to a great extent, they're not gonna laugh at you if you think something crazy, for lack of a better way of looking at it. So this is third dimensional mind reading, I guess, using some sort of a machine, probably getting into the whole artificial intelligence thing to some degree too. Speaking of which, I need to get some guests on my show to talk about artificial intelligence. I haven't really talked about that all that much in recent shows, and many would assert that the artificial intelligence is the one barrier on this planet that's keeping us from being able to ascend to higher consciousness. We need to be able to overpower that. And George Kavaslis in some recent interviews talked about how getting through artificial intelligence and overpowering it is a key to attaining higher consciousness. Andrew Bartzis also talked about that. He did a recent contract revocation on some episode where he talked about how he did a contract revocation to get rid of the so we're not being victimized by artificial intelligence. I did actually videotape that, and maybe I'll take some time to write out everything that he said so I could do the revocations myself. Maybe I'll make a video about it so everybody can do it. Artificial intelligence, like little microscopic bacteria that are artificial that can suppress our consciousness, among other things. We got to try to overpower that because it's still going on. Next article, one more after this one. Obama gulfs while veterans are dying at an alarming rate. Obama does not care about vets. Vets go off on Obama for not taking care of veterans across America during his time in office. Yeah, there's a video about this. And Obama, he always seems to be golfing or vacationing in Hawaii or something like that whenever important things are going on. If you still support Obama, you might as well wear a bumper sticker on your car saying, "I am stupid." And it was a recent video that Mr. Cat I made where he showed that the Obama that I think it was recently went to Japan could not have possibly been the original Obama, because the original Obama had some sort of scar on his head that was normally visible, and this Obama clone, Mr. Cat I asserted, that went to Japan did not have a scar on its head. Fritz Springmeier, in my interview with him, talked about how a lot of political and corporate leaders, have some sort of a clone of them that while the original is off at some sort of satanic ceremony, for example, the clone will be giving a speech to the whole world or running the corporation or something. And a lot of interesting things about clones. It's not something you can easily prove whether or not something is a clone or someone is a clone. So, and you also can't prove if those clones are under some sort of mind control or, dare I say it, reptilian alien influence at an ethereal level, as Mark Kimmel in my interview with him suggested. You can't easily prove that. So many conspiracy theorists will not talk about that. But it's still going on, so it's definitely not something you should not take into account. So this Obama that's golfing while the vets are dying, is it a clone? Who knows? I don't know. But the important thing is our president is not paying attention to important things. And there's no reason Hillary Clinton should be the next president. After all the email scandals she's gone through, the only reason they haven't gone after her is because if they go after her, she's going to release all the dirty laundry on all the other people in Washington and as payback for going after her. So they need to go after her in a careful way and such, but I'm sure she's going to be going down, and can't imagine how Trump can't be the president unless some sort of well, how can they pull it off at voter fraud? I mean, if he's going to win a landslide, they can't commit voter fraud because it will be obvious that he was a victim of voter fraud. So, well, we'll just see what happens. All right, one last article. Memorial Day message, make the right choice, the meaning of American. Anthony Gucciardi gives a special Memorial Day message about what being an American is truly all about. Well, I'll tell you what being an American is all about. It's, well, I don't really see how being an American should be any more or less like being in any other country, because we're all infinite consciousness. We all need to show infinite love. So, I mean, America was supposed to set an example, but the founding fathers, being ignorant, compartmentalized fools — I shouldn't call them fools, they were brilliant — but they had no idea that over the course of time, everything that they stood for was going to be taken away by the Illuminati, who had infiltrated the Freemasons, and a lot of the founding fathers, of course, were Freemasons. Freemasons aren't bad people originally. They just got infiltrated to a great extent, as Donnie Gilson, 32nd degree Freemason, discussed in my interview with him. And founding fathers didn't know that what they stood for was going to be taken away. And one of my favorite political cartoons of all was when Benjamin Franklin is looking at the Constitution, and he says, "My biggest fear, gentlemen, is that in the course of time, people will look at this document as nothing more than a goddamn piece of paper." Well, that kind of does make a strong statement now, doesn't it? We need to get the spirit of 1776 and the spirit of 1215, the Magna Carta, because that's what the Constitution is based on, common law and such. Bring the spirit of 1776 and 1215 back to the world and the rest of reality. All right, there's nobody in my chat room. That doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't shock me, because it's not really a good time to, hey, I talk about 1215. I look at the clock and it says 12:15 p.m. Eastern. What lovely synchronicity. But anyway, getting on with this article. The first one, crystal skulls. All right, I'm going to be reading the article, giving it my own unique style. Excuse me, I think I should probably get a drink and clear my throat here. All right, here we go. There are 4 series of 13 crystal skulls. 1 or more will be reunited. Once united, they will power a cosmic computer system, a portal, and viewing machine. These skulls will give mankind access to the higher realms of cosmic consciousness, of the all-time and the no-time. Because space and time are illusions. Everything's happening all at once, even though we don't really perceive it that way. And these skulls, a lot of the skulls are made of quartz, and quartz can hold a lot of information in it. So it said, if the legend is, if you line them up in a certain way, they will all release the information somehow. Members of the family of light originally created this skull committee, which was delivered by the Syrian High Council to open the portals of higher dimensional awareness. Now we're getting into aliens delivering us the crystal skulls from Sirius, which a lot of people say that that Earth, our solar system, the Sirius star system, and the Pleiades star system are all orbiting around each other. A trio of star systems, and gravity is obviously not the only force that would cause those star systems to orbit around each other. But anyway, the Skull Committee was placed inside the Temple of Nephthys, that's spelled Nephthys, which is inside a crystal cave below the ocean floor in the Bermuda Triangle. The skulls were removed when the Anunnaki showed up in the early stages of the 3rd iteration of Atlantis. I believe this is the Anunnaki from the Nibiru that Zachariah Sitchin talks about. It was done to prevent the abuses that would inevitably follow. It is prophesied that this skull committee will be reunited in the lands of the Maya in the end times, wherever that may be. The Mayans are Atlantean descendants. The most famous skull is the Mitchell Hedges, found in Belize in 1924. It has been analyzed by a team of scientists at Hewlett-Packard and found to have unusual properties. It has internal prisms, single pure crystal structure for both halves, lack of tool marks, created without regard to the natural crystal axis, and a level of craftsmanship that is unknown. It has been found to be many thousands of years old. Once 13 skulls are activated, the interface of the skulls and the Yezhunu, the Syrian beings assigned to this task, and that's spelled Y-Z-H-N-U with an umlaut above it, N-U. The Syrian beings assigned to this task creates a galactic computer station which facilitates communication between the Syrian High Council, the Galactic Federation, and higher dimensional beings throughout the cosmos. At the beginning of the 3rd incarnation of Atlantis, the Skull Committee was disassembled, and each of the 12 skulls was assigned to a keeper of the crystals, a priestess that had been deemed sufficiently disciplined in the mysteries and pure intent by the Syrian High Council. This happened with the first exodus of the 3rd cycle of Atlantis. The Temple of Nephthys remains the most powerful vortex point on the planet. Countless ships and planes have vanished without a trace into its vortex. The vortex is a multidimensional tunnel where matter escapes into parallel realities. It is due to resurface at the time of our progression into the fifth dimension. Many changes in the surrounding terrain will occur prior to this. Since we're talking about the Bermuda Triangle here, in an Andrew Bartzis interview that happened back in the day, one of the questions the radio host asked him, what is the Bermuda Triangle? And for a lack of it was kind of complicated what he said, but I think the best way for me to describe this is the Bermuda Triangle and also the Devil's Triangle in the Japan area in the Pacific Ocean are nothing that goes in there that disappears dies. Or they disappear because they have entered some sort of a timeline paradox. During timeline incursions, and again, this is not me talking, this is Andrew Bartzis talking, during timeline incursions many eons ago on Earth, there were certain points that became scarred, for lack of a better word, for the timeline incursion. And that scar could not be removed, but it could be placed in a certain location through mechanisms that Bartzis elaborates on. So the timeline incursions that occurred that caused paradoxes, because it's many timelines interacting with each other, which can cause paradoxes, they were placed in where the Bermuda Triangle and the Devil's Triangle are. So whenever something disappears in there, it is simply entering some sort of an alternate paradox timeline reality, because again, that place could be thought of as a patch or a scar point on the Earth where paradoxes have exist because it's a place where timeline incursions were put into one location. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that. But for those that still want to understand the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle, and how they work, that's basically the gist of it. So, and again, that's Andrew Bartzis talking, and he has the ability to access the Akashic Records. So if he says that, it must be true because the Akashic Records must be true. But research that on your own if you want. Now, where was I? A master's skull was dematerialized and reassigned to the sixth dimension for safekeeping until the skull committee could be reunited in the great work. At the appointed time, the keepers of the crystal would return and reveal themselves to each other, and then joining together would reopen the window of the cosmos for the instruction and preparation of those who would be moving with Gaia into the fifth dimension. This will occur just before the closing of the year 2012. Okay, well, that already passed. And of course, December 21st, 2012, if you listen to Jim Self, my interview with him, he talks about how that was when Mother Earth officially, everything was said and done for it to be a fourth dimensional, fourth density planet. At that point, we still have not become accustomed to the fourth dimensional environment, so we perceive it still as 3D. Many of us do. But over the course of time, that will that will change. So where was I? The 13th skull will reappear, and a window to the cosmos will reopen in the lands of the Maya and will be directed by the Mayan teachers of time. The Mayan calendar has at its center a depiction of one of the skulls that will be used. This will herald Gaia's Earth's passage into the no-time, all-time of multidimensional consciousness. It will create a new beginning and an end to the old ways. This was planned by the family of light. That it says here the Mayan calendar has its center depiction of one of the skulls that will be used. I think that's not true. I think that's that the person who wrote this article is confusing. A lot of people have confused the Aztec sunstone with the Mayan calendar, and that's kind of a mistake. But that doesn't mean that can't be a crystal skull that's at the center of the Aztec sunstone. But anyway, moving on, the power elite are aware of the skulls, but are only dimly aware of the immensity and scope of their powers. They don't resonate with those frequencies of existence. They only resonate with fear and other negative emotions. They have long attempted to sabotage any ancestral memory of the skulls by distorting the image of the skull in our minds. They have depicted it as evil on pirate flags and as Halloween ghouls. So the skull and crossbones on pirate flags, that's meant to represent a negative image of the crystal skulls. They have not bothered to pursue the keepers because they knew that the programming of the skulls had been set to keep them from accessing them. The Anunnaki plan is simple. Their descendants are still here, even though they aren't. Okay, I think I should stop right there and point out that Brad Johnson, Dronus contactee, in my interview with him, and also Andrew Bartzis has said that the Anunnaki, the ones from the Bureau anyway, have been locked out of our reality. So this article is a little bit of unintentional disinformation here. But the other higher dimensional, higher density Anunnaki, because the Anunnaki, as George Cavazos said, is a mishmash of a hodgepodge of different races that can be thought of as the universal children of a universal universal geneticist entity known as Anu. And the ones from Nibiru are just one faction of that. And like I said, the ones from Nibiru are locked out of our reality, but the higher ones aren't. But anyway, moving on, it is based on 3 principles. The Anunnaki plan: manipulate our thoughts, stimulate our egos, shut down our spiritual selves. Well, that's also the powers of B plan, and the Anunnaki from Nibiru, they did make an alliance with like the Draco-Reptilians, the negative shadow people on Earth, because Brad Johnson talked about how those shadow people, ETs, they were in league and still are in league with the remaining Draco-Reptilians that are still on Earth. So, and also the Zeta Greys and Orion Greys, and reptilians from other races, planets other than Alpha Draconis. But anyway, based on 3 principles: manipulate our thoughts, stimulate our egos, shut down our spiritual selves. If this strategy works, we'll believe that the skulls represent evil and death, and we won't be drawn to them. They believe they successfully disempowered the indigenous peoples by taking them from their lands and reassigning them to settlement camps and reservations. This breaks the consciousness of place and being that has held the frequency of the sacred sites, which is the source of the knowledge. They believe that they have already uprooted the keepers of frequency sufficiently to prevent the skulls from being reunited in time. And yet, the native peoples have kept alive their knowledge of the fifth world and are coming forward with their message of the cosmic no time. The skulls will be reunited. Okay, let's hope that will happen, and it will be for the better. Next sub-article is about the Knights Templar. Francois Berenger Saunier, I hope I pronounced that correctly, my French may be a little rusty, was a priest in the French village of Rennes-le-Château from 1885 to 1909 and discovered documents hidden in his church showing the genealogy of the Merovingians going back to Jesus and Mary. He also found evidence of a treasure. The treasure of the Knights Templar was the robe of Jesus, the Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, the last remaining pieces of the cross of the crucifixion, and some bones. Hang on here, folks. I just want to see if anyone's in the... Nope, nobody in the chat yet. My mother is supposed to be listening to this show, by the way. She's never had an opportunity to listen to this show because she's always very, very busy with her job, which she's very passionate about, but she did want to try to tune into this show. So she may be listening now, for all I know. But that's not going to change the way I go about doing this show. Just thought I'd point that out. Next article, next paragraph. The documents showed that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene and had children who grew up in southern France. The descendants of Jesus and Mary intermarried with Cambrian Franks and founded the Merovingian royal lineage. Mary was 9 years younger than Jesus at age 30. She had a daughter named Tamar. 4 years later, gave birth to Jesus Justus, and in 44 AD, at age 41, she had a second son named Josephus. That same year, Jesus and Mary agreed to a separation and parted. Mary moved to France, established the first nunnery, and died in Aquae Sextiae, that's Aquaesextiae, in 63 AD. And when we're talking about Jesus here, the biblical Jesus is a fictionalized version of a real person. That's Andrew Bartzis talking. He said Jesus was a solar being who incarnated as a human on earth, but the story that's in the Bible has been greatly, greatly twisted about what Jesus' life was actually like. He didn't die on the cross, among other things. But I guess you can say the same thing with a lot of religious figures and such, that they're all real entities that were some higher consciousness incarnate whose stories have been twisted by the powers that be who created religions to suppress our consciousness and such. So this Jesus in this article may be that one that Bartzis was referring to, and has nothing to do with the one in the Bible, but anyway, use your own discernment in regards to whether or not that's true. Jesus had seven siblings named James, Joses, Judas, Simon, Mary, Salome, and Joanna, which, along with all their descendants, were identified as the Desposyni, that's Desposyni, by the Vatican and treated as enemies of the Church. The condemnation of Mary Magdalene as the sinful harlot, the donation of Constantine, and the papal annihilation of the Cathars during the Albigensian crusade were all in response to this perceived threat that the Grail family posed to the power structure of the church. Dual Grail family succession, descendants from Jesus and James, ended with the death of King Arthur. Interestingly, James was also known as Joseph of Arimathea. Now we're talking about King Arthur. George Kavaslis, he's talked about how during one of his high consciousness experiences, he got to go to Camelot and see King Arthur and Merlin and all the rest of them. So the Arthurian legend, I guess that's a fictionalized version of some higher dimensional consciousness area, entity, location known as Camelot that does actually exist. And Andrew Bartz has talked about how Merlin has a great influence over paradoxes in our reality. It was very complicated. He was like Merlin at the simplest level. He said the word paradox like 4 times in his description of what Merlin was, and everybody who had listened to that would probably have been like, what? And he was like, sorry, that's just the simplest way I can explain it. So that was during one of those question and answer sessions for Lead Consciousness Explorers back in 2014, where he talked about that. Very complicated. Don't really care to obsess about that. But Emmanuel, Jesus, lived in India. He did not die on the cross. So maybe that answers my question. This is about the Jesus that Bartz has referred to, that was a solar being whose story was twisted. He didn't die on the cross. His real father was an Astro Pleiadian named Gabriel, who also helped create the Islamic faith. This goes back to what Billy Meyer, the Pleiadian contactee, talked about, how a character named Emmanuel, the story of Jesus is a fictionalized version of Emmanuel, and Emmanuel is the son of a Pleiadian extraterrestrial and an Earth woman named Mary. What is it possible that Emmanuel is the same, that Billy Meyer talks about, is the same as the Jesus solar being that Bartz has talked about? That's something that requires a little more research. His extraterrestrial Pleiadian named Gabriel also helped create the Islamic faith. It says here, Emmanuel was known as Yuz Azaf to the Muslims, and to the Indians he was known as Isa. There is a place in Syria near Damascus called Mayuam I Isa, which means the place where Jesus lived. Accounts of his survival come from the Talmud of Emmanuel and from the Mayan religion of India. And Jordan Maxwell has talked about how the Christian religion and the Muslim and the Islam and the Jewish faith also have their roots from Hindu teachings. I believe he talks about that in my interview with him, if people want to check that out. The latter further depict, when the powers that be fictionalized the story of Jesus and twisted the story of Jesus, they probably based it on things from India. But anyway, the latter further depicts Jesus spending the last part of a long life in the Kashmir region, and being buried in Srinagar, where there is a tomb venerated as his. There are at least 21 historical documents that bear witness to his having lived in Kashmir, India. And I believe Andrew Bartz did say Jesus went to India for a little while. He also went to Ireland, among all other places. Go figure. However, the Jesus figure created at the Council of Nicaea for the Roman Catholic Church was not based on any specific historical figure. The Church, at the direction of Emperor Constantine, created a composite being with the traits of many different messianic figures. Yeah, didn't I just mention that? Immediately after founding the Christian religion, emissaries were sent out to all Eastern countries to destroy the ancient records. Thousands of libraries were destroyed, and in 3090 AD, a large portion of the Library of Alexandria was also destroyed. In 640 AD, the library was totally destroyed to keep it out of the hands of the new religion called Islam. The proof of deceit was nearly wiped from the earth. And Andrew Bartz, again, he talked about the Library of Alexandria being destroyed as part of some sort of timeline incursion going on between the humans down on Earth and like Syrians, Arcturians, the Anunnaki from Nibiru, and other entities in the wars and gold mining operations that Zachariah Sitchin talked about. But that's a whole new other story. The Perfeu de Sion, the Priori of Sion, was a religious order that set for itself the goal of preserving the ancient knowledge handed down from the Sumerian gods to Noah and subsequently to Abraham, Solomon, and Moses. It brought the secret knowledge back to Europe from the Holy Land at the time of the Crusades, and it was passed down through the order and the Mason guilds. The Knights Templar was founded during the 12th century in Jerusalem by the Priori de Sion for the purpose of excavating the temple site in Jerusalem and removing the treasure. In 1127, they completed their work and moved the treasure to their chapter house in Paris. The biblical ark was moved to Ethiopia. The knowledge of the ark was placed in the Chartres Cathedral. Yes, I just watched a documentary about how the Ark of the Covenant is actually in Ethiopia. Graham Hancock has done a lot of research on that, and the priest who is guarding the Ark in the location in Ethiopia where it is, he's getting cataracts. And Graham Hancock, who is like the only person who's ever been able to talk to this priest, asked him, "Why are you getting cataracts?" And the guy said, "The Ark is doing it to me." And some of the other priests who were asked to dedicate their life to guarding the Ark in Ethiopia, they've also suffered from radiation symptoms and such that the Ark is said to have. But anyway, moving on with the article, Abraham was said to possess the tablets of testimony which represented all the knowledge handed down from the time of Noah. Noah obtained them directly from his father, Enki, the god of the Sumerian civilization. And before I say anything further, I think I should point out that like people like Jordan Maxwell would say, there was no Noah, there was no great flood, there was, and all those stories are phony. Well, it shouldn't be said that they're phony. I mean, it depends on your point of view. I mean, people like Zechariah Sitchin's followers would say that many of the stories in Genesis, they are symbols for real life events, and the original story, like Utnapishtim, the Sumerian tale, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the character Utnapishtim is what Noah is based on, and some would assert that the story of Noah, yeah, it did actually happen, but they changed the characters and changed everything for the future. And the original story, which came from like way back, like ancient Sumerian times with Utnapishtim and the Great Flood, that was real. And some of the later versions, they have been twisted and characters given different names. So, I mean, it shouldn't be said religions are phony. Well, they are, but then again, a lot of them are based on some original thing that happened, and there's a lot of debate on that, but that's my understanding of how it actually works. But anyway, Noah obtained them indirectly from his father, Enki. It provided King Solomon with his vast wisdom. The tablets of testimony did. The cipher of the tablet was called the Kabbalah, or Kabbalah, spelled with a Q or a C. If you obtain the knowledge of the Kabbalah, you possessed the Ram, which is the highest expression of cosmic knowing or universal aptitude. The great secret of the Kabbalah was that physical matter can be transformed by the use of incantations of ancient Hebrew letters and numbers, and that the nature of reality is an illusion. It wasn't just about turning lead into gold. It was about turning anything into anything. And in my interview with Jay Widener, he talks about how alchemy, a lot of people would say alchemists are lunatics because they think they can turn anything into anything. Well, if you are infinite consciousness and anything is possible, you can turn anything into anything, although to make it happen, you may need to try the experiment a Google times trillion times a million times before it finally does turn or transform into what you want it to. So the alchemists were right, but many people thought them as lunatics because they were trying to do what many people thought, for all intents and purposes, was impossible. But it's not, of course. This mystical knowledge passed through Mesopotamia and Palestine into medieval Europe, where it first appeared in the writings of Moses de Leon, a Spanish Jew. We are now at a defining point in history. The Knights Templar brought the secret knowledge back to Europe from the Holy Land at the time of the Crusades, and it was passed down through the Order and the Mason guilds, which included Freemasonry, the Rosicrucians, and the Illuminati. It was given to the people in the end times to get ready for what was to come. There will be no messianic second coming because of what happened in the past. There were great hopes that the Nazarene would be successful in raising the consciousness of the planet, but the Jewish people failed to accept him as their leader. The crucifixion was not intentional. This will not be repeated. This time, many will come to raise consciousness. Man will finally realize that the God he seeks is himself. Yes, and I've been hearing that in this Pluto in Capricorn time, which goes on till 2023, 2024, which will signal the end of everything that stands in the way of humanity's higher consciousness ascension. I mean, we're dealing with the banks now that are being eliminated, and around like maybe 2022, 2023, we may see the demise in the end of the religions. So people will finally be able to attend higher consciousness by not following some higher power like religions teach them. But that remains to be seen whether that will be the case. Hang on a second, I just need to get a quick drink. By the way, there was a message that popped up from Skype saying that my microphone is really quiet. hopefully that's not going to be an issue here. But I do have someone in the chat room, Christel J404, who is listening. I don't think I've ever seen you before, a new listener. Glad to see you listening. So if you can't hear me, Crystal J404, please type something in the chat room so I know that that Skype message was nothing significant. Oh, how you doing? So you can hear me. That's good to know. All right, so maybe that message was just a little technical gremlin from Skype trying to break my will and make me think people can't hear me. But all right, I'm digressing and babbling. Next article, the sub-article, the Pharaohs. Moses and Akhenaten were the same person. Akhenaten was an Egyptian pharaoh and was the father of King Tut, Tutankhamun. A little debate going on that. Some people like Carmen Bolter would say it's not 100% provable that King Tut was the son of Akhenaten, but I guess the evidence, it's not provable, but it's pretty close to suggesting that was the case. Akhenaten was born to Tai, and Amenhotep III was saved by the royal midwives in a reed basket, was discovered by distant relatives downstream, Lower Egypt, and reared by Tai's sister-in-law Tay of the Jewish house of Levi. He received his religious education at Heliopolis and married his half-sister Nefertiti, which placed him in line for the throne. And that what I just mentioned earlier about how many religious figures from future times are actually fictionalized versions of some true character. Akhenaten did exist, but Moses didn't. Well, some could say Moses did exist because he was Akhenaten. Well, you get the picture. When Amenhotep III died, Amenhotep IV succeeded him and changed his name to Akhenaten, which means Spirit of the Sun. Because he had been taught by the Jewish one-God belief system, he discarded the pluralistic deities of the Egyptians and created his own city, Amarna, away from the temples of Egypt and worshipped as he was taught. And because of the powerful priesthood, he was forced to abdicate and in 1361 BC, was banished from Egypt. He gathered his friends and relatives and fled to the Nile Delta on foot, being chased by men on horses that foundered in the marshes. His supporters, believing him the rightful heir, called him Moses, meaning heir. It was a title, not a name. His descendants cemented the succession of the royal house of Judah. And George Kavaslis has talked about how Akhenaten, who he thinks may have actually been an Anunnaki extraterrestrial, and Akhenaten does look kind of weird compared to other humans. He's got an elongated skull, and his hips are a lot wider. He sort of looks like a woman, but he was a male. And was he an ET or an Anunnaki? Most likely. And Kavaslis talked about how the priestly class, they were actually the bad guys, and Akhenaten, he stood for good things with all of his sun worship stuff. But some people like Carmen Bolter would disagree with that and say nothing good is said about Akhenaten. I did not really believe George Kavaslis' story there, so I basically left the presentation room when Kavaslis said that, she said. But a lot of research needs to go into that to see if there's some truth about that. Next article, Abraham and Amenemhet the First were the same person. Amenemhet, that's Amenemhet the First, was an Egyptian pharaoh who ruled from 1991 BC through 1962 BC. He seized the throne after assassinating Pharaoh Mentuhotep IV. Explorer Antonio Lubolo discovered his identity in 1818 AD after finding his tomb near the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. The documents placed in the tomb clearly referred to Abraham and showed him sitting on the throne. The tomb of Amenhotep is currently the once royal tomb to which public access is forbidden. The word Amenemhet means Amen is the head. The god of the Jews was known variously as Ra, Amun Ra, Amun, Amon, Amon Ra, Omen, Omen Ra, Amen, Amen Ra, and others. And I'm mixing a lot of A's and O's there to try to get the pronunciation right. He was also the same being as Marduk, the first son and heir to the Lord of Earth, Enki. The Jewish people still worship the God of the Old Testament, and references to Amun Ra were often contained in the original memes of their patriarchs, such as Amenemhet, Amenhotep, and Amun. So the god of the Jews, very similar as Ra, is the same being as Marduk. Marduk, that's what the ancient Sumerians actually called the planet Nibiru. I believe Zechariah Sitchin said it wasn't until the time of the Babylonians that came after the Sumerians where the planet Marduk, where the Anunnaki came from, was known as became known as Nibiru, and he was known as Marduk, the first son of the Lord of an heir to the Lord of Earth, the first son of Enki, the Lord of the Earth. So maybe that does add credibility to Cavasso's claim that Akhenaten was an Anunnaki, and Marduk was an Anunnaki and such. But anyway, moving on here, the Ark of the Covenant was designed after the Royal Egyptian canoptic chest. It was presented to Abraham by the priest Melchizedek as a gift from Marduk. It carried and produced philosopher's stones, a.k.a. white stone, monatomic gold, orme, how do you pronounce that? MFKZT. There's no vowels in that word. But anyway, bread in quotes, is also what the philosopher's stone is called. Mana, the food of the gods, the golden fleece, the divine mystery of the Holy Grail. That's what the philosopher's stone is also known as, all those things. An exotic substance, the philosopher's stone, was that when ingested links consciousness with the one and extends life. It was given to the pharaohs to give them godlike powers. Akhenaten, also known as Moses, and the Nazarene used it in the mystery schools, also known as the Essenes. Moses sold the ark when he left Egypt, which is why he was pursued by men on horses. The Jewish elite, through the sons of Levi, carried the ark into battle following the exodus from Egypt. Through an attached Osiris device, its energy could be directed by the conscious intent of an adept. It could levitate and defy all known parameters of space and time. Talk about synchronicity. I was just watching this documentary about the Ark of the Covenant yesterday, and now I'm talking about it on my show. Lovely synchronicity. To him that, there's a quote from Revelation 2:17 in here. It says, quote, "To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it." A lot of controversy over what Revelation stands for, so take this with a grain of salt. Getting on with the article, many other Jewish patriarchs were also pharaohs. King Solomon has been identified with Pharaoh Simon, 978 to 959 BC. Yeah, a lot of people talk about how the King Solomon, the Temple of Solomon, there's no evidence he and the temple existed. Well, if you believe that King Solomon is Pharaoh Simon, then maybe you could disagree with that. The word Simon means the son of Amun. He was the last ruler to use the power of the ark to create that word MFKZT. God knows how it's pronounced with no vowels in it. The word Amen is used in all languages and all religions. The word is repeated over and over in the Old Testament, the holy book of Christians and Jews. The word is hidden in the word testament, which is two words, test and ament. The word means the hidden one. The word Amen is defined in the Holy Bible, the King James Version, 1 Kings 1:3-6, as the Lord God of my Lord. Amen is Amen-Ra, the God of the Old Testament. And since I'm mentioning the word God here, and I just mentioned earlier, I said God knows how it's pronounced, the word MF cuts. I got to get out of that habit. George Cavazos, in his recent Alfred Weber interview, talked about how you got to get out of the habit of using the word God, like praise God, God only knows, and words like that, because the word God has been created as a form of consciousness suppression. It's better to use words like source and the creator, but not God, because God has a religious quality to it of sorts. But anyway, getting on with the article, Amun-Ra, also known as Marduk, wasn't a particularly nice guy. The only obvious reason that the Jewish people have identified themselves with him was because of his covenant with Abraham. He killed Egyptian children and spread plagues, famine, and pestilence. He called himself a jealous god. He was angry, hateful, and violent. There is an obelisk planted in the middle of St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. An obelisk is a pagan symbol of fertility, a phallus, and also a symbol of the god Amun-Ra. The Vatican's obelisk came from Egypt. What would otherwise appear to be an outrageous display of paganism on the part of the Vatican is actually a symbol of the God of the Old Testament. All the major religions came from Sumer, also known as Iraq. The Sumerian, Babylonian, and Egyptian stories of the Old Testament were edited and rewritten to create a history and religion called Judaism. The New Testament stories created a religion called Christianity, which is the Babylonian religion of sun worship. The Trinity of Enki, the Father, Adapa, the Son, and Inanna, the Virgin Mother, were transposed into the Holy Family of Joseph, Jesus, and Mary. Islam is an offshoot of Christianity. Hinduism, Buddhism, and Zoroastrianism okay. Let me just not confuse here. Islam is an offshoot of Christianity, and the next sentence says Hinduism, Buddhism, and Zoroastrianism all emerged from the Middle East religions that were under the control of Sumer. Inanna figures include Isis, Ishtar, Aphrodite, Venus, Diana, Semiramis, Athena, Minerva, Hera, and Juno. The Easter egg comes from the story of Ishtar coming to Earth from the moon in an egg. The image of Semiramis, the slave queen of Sumeria, is depicted in the Statue of Liberty in New York. And Semiramis, slave queen, is not compatible with liberty. So the Statue of Liberty, it is a lie. It's not about liberty and freedom. It is about Illuminati enslavement and such. And Jordan Maxwell has talked about how liberty, that's really a maritime admiralty term of sorts. You don't have freedom, you have liberty in maritime admiralty law, and you can't get liberty unless you get permission from the captain, who's the king of his ship. So liberty, in patriot community lore, it means a good things like freedom and such, but in maritime admiralty lore, it's not a good thing because you need liberty is a privilege because you need permission from your captain to get it. But anyway, moving on. Enki figures include the Sumerian god Enki, Anunnaki Enki. Figures include Osiris, Baal, Molech, Saturn, Nimrod, Janus, and Pan. Nimrod, the king of Babylon, was the god of the sun and the ruler of earth. He was conceived on Easter and born on Christmas Day. Sunday was the day of sun worship. Adapa figures include Horus, Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, Mithra, Dionysus, Bacchus, Tammuz, Odin, Zoroaster, Indra, Baal, Cadmus, Adonis, and Prometheus. Horus was the son of Osiris, or the son of a god. The all-seeing eye is the eye of Horus. And also, since I mentioned here, Adapa figures include, it says Dionysus. Dionysus also seems to have some connections with the fictional Jesus Christ entity. So when the powers that be probably twisted the stories of all these characters and entities throughout history that did have some original truth to them, but their stories were twisted, they probably combined things from different figures to really confuse the issue, among other things. And that could make sense how both Jesus and Adapa could have connections to Dionysus, and that could be true with some of the other entities here. So, but it does say here Adapa figures do include Horus, Christ, and such, but I have seen from other research that like more than one entity from one faith could be a fictionalized version of just one entity from another faith. So it's not just one entity for one entity. It could be two entities have combined to form a fictionalized story of one future entity, but that's something that requires a whole new area of research and opens up a whole new can of worms. But anyway, moving on, the godmother-child religions have been used to implant a false history, suppress knowledge, and divide and rule the masses. All right, next sub-article is called the Talmud of Emmanuel. A quote from Emmanuel here, quote, "Today I say to you, there is no better friend than knowledge, no higher happiness than wisdom, and no savior than the power, and no other savior than the power of your consciousness." Nice little quote there. I do have someone calling in the queue here. There's no question mark next to your name, so I don't know if you're just listening or not. Could be my mother, because I know she's listening. Just a few quick things here from in the chat room from Crystallize. All is clear. Oh, wow, I have a question. Oh, no audio. It will refresh. Is that why there is an obelisk next to every major church in Europe? Yes, I guess the reasons I just explained earlier in the article do have some connection as to why there is an obelisk in every major church in Europe. So, yes, I hope that answers your question. By the way, I'm not going to be able to get into the chat room much during this show because I have to just keep reading the article, and I got 3 hours to do it. But I will try every so often to get in the chat room to see if anybody says anything. And this caller in the queue here, number 491-521-7795, 023, very confusing number there. If you're just listening, fine. But if you do have a question for me, I'd like to ask you to hang up and call in and press 1 so I see a question mark next to your number so I know that you do have a question. But if I don't see that, I'm not going to take your call because I really need to finish this article in 3 hours. But you're more than welcome to listen. But anyway, getting on with the Talmud of Emmanuel. And in 1963, a document called the Talmud of Emmanuel, in the form of scrolls encased in resin, was discovered buried under a flat rock in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, which was reportedly used by Emmanuel, and also Jesus of Nazareth. Emmanuel was. Excuse me. It was found by Edward Billy Meyer of Switzerland shortly after a Lebanese priest named Isa Rashid discovered the actual burial site. The document is an authentic writings of Judas Iscariot, a disciple and contemporary of Emmanuel. Judas was a loyal follower and scribe and should not be confused with the traitor Judas Iscariot, a son of a Pharisee. It was written in Old Aramaic and subsequently translated into German and English. It is the only known record of the teachings and ministry of Emmanuel prior to the time of the crucifixion. This document has sustained considerable scholarly interest and study and has been found to be internally consistent with itself in the historical record. Much of the first 4 books of the New Testament came from it. From the Talmud, the creator of earth humans is also human, but vastly greater in consciousness than we. He and his followers traveled among the stars to earth. They bonded with the people of earth to create an improved human. And here are the 10 laws of Emmanuel. Act only in self-defense. Oh, makes sense. Well, I take Aikido, so I know a thing or two about that. That's the first one. And number 2, achieve justice by finding it for yourself. Some would say justice is glorified revenge, so you shouldn't achieve it, but sometimes you got to draw a line, and if you feel in your discernment that you need justice, then get justice. Number 3, do not swear an oath to anyone or anything. Number 4, offer your love wherever it is warranted. Number 5, pray to the omnipotence of your spirit. Number 6, do not amass great treasures on earth, for where your treasure is, so too is your heart. Number 7, take care for the next day, for tomorrow will not take care of you by itself. Number 8, judge not falsely, lest you be falsely judged. Number 9, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened unto you. Well, not if you're a terrible, horrible person. Then you're not going to get that stuff by asking and such. You have to give a little to get a little. Number 10, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the golden rule there. Moving on, quote here, seek and understand the meaning of my speech, lest you be so bold as to call me the Son of God or the Son of Creation, or to insult me by calling me the ruler over good and evil. Unquote. Next quote, insofar as the laws and commandments of creation and God are followed, there is no need for people to bring forth other laws and commandments. For man-made laws always produce murder and evil. Next quote, there is no higher happiness than wisdom, no better friend than knowledge, and no better savior than the power of the Spirit. And next quote, as I do these things, so shall you do them, and even greater things shall you do. And the last quote, in 2,000 years, my teachings will be taught anew and unfalsified. When people have become reasonable and knowledgeable, and a new age foretells of great upheavals. A few special selected people, the new proclaimers of my teachings, will preach it unfalsified and with great courage. It says here, the original Lord's Prayer. This is not the Lord's Prayer that we know of originally, that goes, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. This is the original one. It says, quote, my spirit, you are omnipotent. Your name is holy. Let your kingdom incarnate itself in me. Let your power unfold itself within me, on earth as and in the heavens. Give me today my daily bread, so that I may know gratitude and truth, and lead me not into temptation and confusion, but deliver me from error. For yours is a kingdom within me, and the power and the knowledge forever. All right, next sub-article. Actually, is this a no? Actually, this isn't a sub-article. It's it's part of this Talmud thing. These are the teachings of creation, and there are 10 teachings here. Number 1, creation is not perfect. It must keep perfecting itself forever. Number 2, it perfects itself through the creation of sentience, a self-aware spirit being. This sentience lives in people and invigorates them to progress through the learning to perfect itself. Number 3, when sentience is first created, it is ignorant of everything. It must live in a body to learn. Number 4, it gets cycled through many lifetimes until it is perfected and becomes one with creation. Number 5, as it is with all living things, creation needs rest. When it is not creating, it sleeps. Number 6, creation is subject to the laws of original duration and original creation. Number 7, the secret of these laws is based on the number 7, which is counted in times. Number 8, creation rests on the lap of slumber for 7 great times, so that nothing exists, not even the universe. Number 9, however, it awakens from its slumber and begins to create everything anew through the 7 periods of the 7 great times. One great time is trillions of years. Well, how many trillions? It doesn't specify. Number 10, this cycle repeats endlessly. That's the end of the 10. Moving on here, the polarity of consciousness is an illusion. There are no evil or good people. There are only bad and good choices that divinely inspired people make. I'm sure some people would agree to disagree with that, saying there's no evil or good people, but it's a point of view issue. When we were all deceived by the Dark Lords, the rebellious co-creators who elected to become one with the process of entropy and death, those who choose to identify with the purposes of the Dark Lords will live with death, shame, misery, oppression, and estrangement to self and others. The only unforgivable sin is to not forgive oneself. No one else can do it. Again, the only unforgivable sin is to not forgive oneself. No one else can do it. All right, next sub-article. Oh, it's very, very short. It's just the universal laws. There's 4 universal laws. And I believe I did my own story, my own show on this back in the day when I couldn't find a guest. People are welcome to check that show out when I did it. But anyway, this is just a quick summary of the 4 universal laws. The law of attraction, like attracts like. And I remember George Kavaslis in one of his recent interviews saying that gravity, what is gravity? Well, it is the law of attraction, of like attracting like. Well, a mainstream physicist would say that doesn't really make sense because you think of gravity as being a byproduct, a fabric of the warping of space and time caused by mass. But many people in modern times would say that Einstein wasn't getting the whole story there. There's actually a lot more to gravity than just bending and warping of space-time. It has a law of attraction quality to it. But anyway, moving on, number 2 law, law of deliberate intent. What you focus on is what you create. And of course, you have to believe in your heart, I think, to some degree, that what you're focusing on will actually be created. So focus on it and believe it. Number 3, law of allowance. Allow all to manifest. Don't interfere, allow it to manifest. And number 4, law of harmony and balance. What you give, you get. Well, some people would say some of these laws are all different versions of the law of attraction, but others would say that number 2, number 3, and number 4, they are different laws in themselves that are not the law of attraction. It's a point of view issue. These laws cannot be used to counter the laws of creation. These laws govern all sentient life everywhere. So the next article here, sub-article, I'm going to have to get a quick drink. Let's see if there's anybody. Okay, it says, there's a message here that appeared on Blog Talk. It says, in observance to the Memorial Day holiday, support will be closed Monday, May 30th, and will reopen Tuesday, May 31st. So I don't have any support here. That's might be a little bit of a problem, but well, hopefully it won't be a problem. Just a little message came up. My caller hung up. I guess maybe they didn't have a question. But I have some people in the chat room here. Dream Master 1, glad to see you're in there, and also Soul 11. Glad some people are turning in. Guess you must have been really bored on your Memorial Day. So you decided to turn into my show. How wonderful. But anyway, I got to get on with the article here. Feel free to talk in the chat, though. It's going to be kind of hard for me to tune in, like I said, because I have to keep reading this article all through the show, but I will try to join in, like maybe after I finish 1 or 2 sub-articles. But anyway, the agenda of the Illuminati, who really runs the world? And here's a little pyramid here, 12 layers and a 13th layer down at the very, very bottom. But let's start from number 13, who really controls the world. Well, first of all, it says highest level malevolent extraterrestrials who literally exist and feed off fear, death, pain, suffering, misery, and sacrifices, controllers of the archons. Well, that's at the very top. So let's start number 13. First, you got the secret societies. Number 12, the Committee of 300. Number 11, the Council of 13, and I'm not going to elaborate on these. I don't really have the time here. You guys can research these things on your own. Number 10, United Nations. Number 9, Federal Reserve and other central banks. Number 8, the United Nations Banking Complex. Number 7, the Council on Foreign Relations. Number 6, the Business Advisory Council. Number 5, the Bilderbergers. Number 4, the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church. Number 3, the lower-level malevolent extraterrestrials like the Dracos and Reptilians. Number 2, higher-level malevolent extraterrestrials like the Anunnaki. And number 1, archons and other invisible matter like the artificial intelligence, perhaps. And the archons, who's responsible for the archon control system, who, there's the 15 beings that Andrew Martz talked about. But the 15 beings, it's been reduced to 6 because the others... the not remaining 6, they underwent service to self-ascension. And George Kavassos talked about how he's been in a council of the 6 lords of darkness, who he says were responsible to a great degree for the fall of Atlantis, and they're a conduit for all the bad things that are going on Earth. I can't help but wonder if the 6 of the 15 beings that did not undergo service to self-ascension are the same as the 6 lords of darkness that George Kavassos talks about. Probably something a little worth researching. But anyway, it says here, below the pyramid, you will find corporations such as Monsanto. World leaders and politicians are below them. At the bottom, you will find us, the 99.999% of the population. Yes, we outnumber them a lot, but yet we don't seem to be doing... Well, we are doing our part to eliminate the control system. And a lot of people waking up, so that's a good thing. But anyway, for a week in October 2008, a person claiming to be a generational member of a ruling bloodline family answered questions on a forum at abovetautsecret.com. He used the moniker Hidden Hand. The following are drawn from that posting. This is from the posting. The Illuminati is a secret branch of Freemasonry. Well, I think he's referring to the Bavarian Illuminati, which is a sub-secret society in the Illuminati power structure, and it's not so much a secret branch of Freemasonry as much as it has infiltrated the Freemasons, as I mentioned earlier, and George Washington wrote a letter to warn his fellow Freemasons about the Bavarian Illuminati influence, and the Bavarian Illuminati, created on May 1st, 1776, that's to a great extent is where communism can be traced back to. But anyway, the Illuminati, a dark cabal that controls the world. It controls the cartels of banking, media, pharmaceuticals, defense, chemicals, food, minerals, and oil. It is run by 13 bloodlines and also some other sub-bloodlines that are not as significant as the top 13 that have ruled the world since its beginning. It is divided into a number of houses which perform various functions within society. And the Archon control system, to some extent, has been on the Earth for 900,000 years. That's Andrew Bartz is talking. And different times have been worse than others, of course. But anyway, Illuminati divided into a number of houses which perform various functions within society. These houses are the military, government, spiritual, scholarship, leadership, and sciences. With complete control of the media and banking, they have all aspects of society under their control. It has a number of levels. At the bottom of the local cell groups or family clusters, which consist of 5 to 30 in a town or city. Each local area has its own council, which represents the 6 areas of learning. On the next level is the regional council, consisting of the council leaders of the cell groups. Then there's the national council with the leaders of the regional councils. And then there's the Supreme World Council with the national leaders representing their countries. Above this is a liaison group to power lines not of this planet. Excuse me. He relayed that they find this world, this third density world, very constricting and uncomfortable, and want to be once again united with Lucifer, the illuminated one, or the light bearer. Not to be confused with Satan. Satan and Lucifer are not the same entity, even though sometimes they are referred to as the same entity. Mark Passio, I encourage you all to listen to a presentation he does talking about the difference between Luciferian and Satanism. But anyway, this will require them to stage human sacrifices in 2012 with a holy war. They have to be as negative possible to succeed. Yahweh has been running a benign dictatorship in the Garden of Eden, but so that many may experience free will and thus evolve spiritually, he introduced evil into the world in the form of Lucifer, or the Illuminated One. Given a choice, Yahweh expected man would not willing choose evil. And Yahweh, I recently wrote a book by, who was the guy I interviewed? Polk, Reverend John Polk, or something like that was his name, talking about how Yahweh, he believes, is a creator God, higher dimensional entity, and could be a trickster God too. He said a lot of the religious gods could actually be creator gods. I guess that does make sense to some degree. But anyway, at the harvest, all sufficiently evolved souls will enter fourth density, and the rest will be transported to a replica Earth to continue to work on themselves. Those that are at least 95% polarized negative will transition to negative fourth density, and to do this will likely require violence and blood sacrifices. There may be dramatic earth changes leading up to this event, which will include storms, tsunamis, and tectonic activity with widespread devastation. Humanity has a significant role to play, as what will be physically manifest is the collective mind of humanity. As we get closer to this time, physical reality will begin more quickly to respond to your thoughts. The end of this 26,000-year cycle heralds the new world age and a new creation and the time of the great harvest. Third density will land on Earth, and people will either be transformed or moved elsewhere. Okay, I guess this article was written shortly before the 2012 end of the Mayan calendar date in 2012. By the way, speaking of which, there is another article I read on In5D talking about how June 2016, some date, I don't remember the exact date, but it will be coming up, talking about how the Mayan calendar may actually be like 3 or 4 years behind schedule, and this date is the true start of the Mayan calendar. Make of that whatever you will. I'm not really resonating with that, but just thought I'd point that out because that June date is fast approaching. The Illuminati create war, hatred, greed, control, enslavement, genocide, torture, moral degradation, prostitution, drugs for our good. They provide us with the tools to see whom, what, and where we are. A lot of people don't think of those as being for our good, but then again, a lot of bad things can be brought into our reality to bring in more light. Sai Baba once said a lot of the bad things that we're seeing at a higher rate, that only shows that there's more light, because we're waking up to those things, and waking up to those bad things can wake us up for the better. They provide us with the tools to see whom, what, and where we are. It is not what we do, but how you react that is important. You have free will to choose. You must take responsibility for your thoughts and your choices. Understand that we have to be negative. That's what we were sent here to be. It is our contact, and it has always been to help you. Being negative is very hard for us, not on a physical level, but on a spiritual level. We surpassed the lowly negative vibrations eons ago. We are light and love. It is a very hard thing for us to do, to create all this negativity, but we do it because we love you, and it is for your highest good ultimately. You could say that it is our sacrifice, and we have made in order to be of service to the one infinite creator, and to you, our brothers and sisters in the one. Our creator is the one you refer to as Lucifer, the light bearer, and the bright and morning star. It is not the devil, as he has been spuriously portrayed in your Bible. Lucifer is what you would call a group soul or social memory complex. He has evolved to the level of the sixth density. This, in effect, means that he, or more accurately, we, has evolved to a level sufficient that he and we has attained a status equal or greater than Yahweh. Appearance, were you to gaze upon Lucifer's full expression of our being, the appearance would be that of a sun or bright star. When stepping down to a third density vibration, we would appear as what you may term as angel or light being. You have, as a society, in your hypnotized, comatose state, given your free will consent to the state your planet is in today. You saturated your minds with the unhealthy dishes served up for you on your televisions that you are addicted to. When was the last time you stopped to think of something beautiful and pure? The planet is the way it is because of your collective thoughts about it. You are complicit in your inaction every time you look the other way when you see injustice. You thought at the subconscious level of creation. Your thought at the subconscious level of creation is your allowance of these things. The Illuminati dogma is pure Kabbalism, which sees chaos and destruction as a prerequisite for change. The Creator exists as sparks within your bodies, and the world must be smashed to release it. Humans are seeds of the one infinite Creator, remembering and learning who you really are. You are trapped within this third dimensional physicality, orthodoxy physicality, within the matter of this planet called Earth. You are the offspring of the Yahweh group soul. Avoid the Illuminati traps and listen to the inner voice so you can be released from the wheel of reincarnation at the great harvest. There is a reason why you are here, and it is very likely you do not know where here is. You become free on working out where you are and realizing where you are. All right, that's enough of that article. I think I better get a sub-article, Still got a lot of article to go. And again, I don't think I'm going to be able to finish before 2 p.m. Eastern, which is in about 46 minutes. So at 2 p.m. Eastern, you guys will need to call into the show 646-478-4747 to listen to the post-live feed of the show. But anyway, next sub-article here is about the Mayan calendar, and it has a depiction of that Aztec sunstone here that I say has been confused with the Mayan calendar. But moving on, the Maya were the inheritors of the Atlantean knowledge of the great cycles of time. From Dr. Carl Johann Kalimann's work, the Mayan calendar describes a period of time that started 16.4 billion years ago and ended on October 28, 2011. It gives us the entire timeline for our known universe. The calendar is divided into 8 cycles made up of, before I get on to that, October 28, 2011, George Kavaslis talked about how numerous timelines came together on that day at a rate never before seen in my interview with him. And also that was the day the cosmic fluctuations of male and female energy coming from the center of the galaxy were reached a state of equilibrium. The calendar is divided into 8 cycles made up of 13 times 20 to the n power times 360 days, where n represents a number from 7 to 0. Each cycle is 20 times shorter than the previous. The 8th cycle, the Galactic cycle, started January 5th, 1999, and will last 4,680 days. The last 9th cycle, the Universal cycle, starts February 10th, 2011, and lasts just 260 days. In the period between October 28, 2011, the end of the Carl Johann Kalimann's version, and December 21st, 2012, we will enter a period of infinite possibility where we choose a new consensus reality. Further confirmation of this same December 21st, 2012 date is revealed in the Webbot Project in Terence McKenna's novelty theory from the King Wen sequence of the I Ching and in prophecies of many native cultures. Humans can choose to move forward in their evolution anytime they're ready, but planets and stars can only do so at programmed intervals. This is a planetary galactic ascension that is occurring. The Earth and all the planets and stars are moving up in vibrational consciousness into the 4th and 5th levels. This started in 1936 and is almost completed. Oh, this is somewhat new to me. I wasn't aware that 1936 was when was the starting point of the Earth and the planets and stars moving up in vibrational consciousness into the 4th and 5th levels. I wonder how he got that date, 1936. Once it has reached the tipping point, the Earth will shift. These levels and vibrations are mathematically the same as notes of a musical scale. There are scales within each level. The musical scale starts with C because we all resonate with the 3rd vibration note of the scale. The 5th level is in resonance harmony with the 3rd. 40 scales higher, the frequency 40 scales higher, the frequency manifests, and the visible light spectrum of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. We resonate with yellow. We have a yellow sun. Do we? Well, I've heard some physicists and astronomers say the sun appears yellow, but if you look at it closely, it is actually white. And I believe some people have talked about how in the past few years the sun has been turning more whiter when looked at from down to earth than the yellowish color that it used to be in the not-too-distant past. These frequencies combine with rotating vortices and electromagnetism to create all that we see, the entire visible universe. On Earth, the first level resonates with the primary elements of earth, air, fire, and water. The second level resonates with the animals and plants. The third level resonates with humans. We can describe the 7 levels thus far. Number 1, elemental. Number 2, animal. Number 3, free will. Number 4, love. Number 5, wisdom. Number 6, unity of love and wisdom. And number 7, the gateway to oneness. Everything is octaves of frequency. Okay, take a little break there. No people in the queue. Got some people in the chat. Soul 11 gave me the wave when I mentioned you not that long ago. So glad to see you guys are still there. Still got a ways to go, and now we're going to get to a very love-based form of this article. Stop talking about the negative Illuminati stuff and talk about the physics of ascension. That's the title of this next sub-article, the physics of ascension. I mean, we can all agree to disagree on whether or not ascension is a good word to use or not, because you're not really ascending above anything. You're just moving closer to the point of one infinite consciousness, which has nothing to do with ascending above something, but people will use the name Ascension anyway, even though it could be considered a misnomer because the name Ascension sticks. So for the purposes of this article, I will probably use the word Ascension. Anyway, there is a structure underlying the physical universe that creates all that we can see and with which we interact. It emanates from a single point in the center of the universe called the Galactic Central Sun. Called the Great Central Sun, not the Galactic Central Sun. That's the center of the galaxy. The center of the universe is called the Great Central Sun. It consists of light or frequency and information or intelligence. The light is often called the pure white light because it doesn't specifically refer to visible light, but rather frequency or wave energy from the source. It is also called the seed sound, the Om sound, or the music of the spheres. The frequency that we can hear as sound is many octaves lower in frequency than the frequency we see as light. The sound wave is moving air molecules to create the sound, and light waves are moving electromagnetic waves to create visible light, but they are both frequency and information. The figure to the right is a three-dimensional waveform. Oh, there's a picture here, but well, actually, there's no picture there, but it says here the figure to the right is a three-dimensional waveform created by a water-based liquid, emulsion, and sound. Physical reality is a similar phenomenon emanating from the quantum flux. When the energy of the source interacts with this fluid-like medium of the universe, it creates a fluid-like crystalline structure which becomes a building block of matter. The quantum crystalline structure are composed of nested platonic solids. The first solid created, however, is not platonic. It is a sphere. It is at once both the most simple and complex of all the solids, with only one surface and no straight lines, but containing the greatest volume per surface area, thereby generating the most efficient use of space. It is the beginning of life, the seed, the egg, the orb, the atom, Earth, or the entire universe. It is the boundary for an infinity. All of the platonic solids fit perfectly inside the sphere. The smallest object within any infinite universe is the tetrahedron. The pulsating counter-rotation of nested solids creates all the complex building blocks of matter. These platonic solids resonate with the generated frequencies such that they wink in and out of existence when the source frequency changes. There are certain pure frequencies which we understand and interact with, such as notes on the diatomic musical scale, the white keys on a piano, or the pure colors of the rainbow. It is these pure frequencies that create the platonic solids. They exist as groups of 8 or octaves of frequency. The notes of the musical scale or the colors of the rainbow exist as octaves. There are an infinite number of frequency octaves both above and below, and within the sound and light octaves. Time is a function of these frequencies. A lot of talk about what time also is. Matteo Stefano, Indigo Child, talks about how time could be thought of as a measure of the decay of matter in this third-dimensional reality. That opens up a whole new can of worms, too. But anyway, the platonic solids correspond to specific pure frequencies of the octave. In order, they are the sphere, icosahedron, octahedron, tetrahedron, cube, dodecahedron, icosahedron, and, of course, the sphere, which is the beginning of the next octave. We resonate with the third frequency, or the octahedron. One half of an octahedron is a perfect pyramid. The Great Pyramid is a perfect pyramid. It connects the physical to the ethereal. It was used by the mystery schools, the Left Eye of Horus and the Essenes, to connect the spiritual self to all of creation while still in the body. The capstone is the next dimension. The Nazarene was one of many who developed skills in the Great Pyramid. And mentioning the capstone, George Cavazos said that in one of his past lives where he helped be part of the group that brought the pyramid complex to Egypt to anchor the male energies of Orion, he said you would lay in the sarcophagus-like object in the king's chamber, and I'm not so sure if it was the four sides or the four corners of the pyramid. Either the four sides or the four corners represented the four elements: earth, air, water, and fire. You would intermingle with those elements when you were lying in the sarcophagus-like object. which, by the way, is at the same dimensions as the Ark of the Covenant. Make of that whatever you will. And inside that sarcophagus, when you intermingle with the energy would eventually go out the top of the capstone in the pyramid, in the Great Pyramid, which, of course, is no longer there for whatever the reason. But anyway, the Nazarene were one of many who developed skills in the Great Pyramid. Next paragraph, the platonic solids are the basic building blocks of all matter throughout the universe. Excuse my yawn there. The atoms and other elementary subatomic particles are made for them. All frequencies are required in all dimensions of existence, but we focus on the ones we see and interact with. Consciousness itself is expressed as the spheres pulsated through the nested platonic solids. The mathematical relationship with all living things, the phi, pi, root 2, root 3, root 5, and Fibonacci sequence are all found in the relationships within and between these solids. We direct those energies from our subconscious. We are the creators of our world, and it is our thoughts that hold it together. As we ascend, we raise our frequencies within our current octave of frequencies. Higher frequency matter then becomes visible and tangible as well. We experience spontaneous physical changes because the building blocks change. This all happens because of a change in frequencies from the source, and it happens very quickly. All will require assistance from higher intelligence to do this. The universe is connected by a vast spider web of energy and information. These individual strands are vortex-like, wormhole-like, and connects all the objects that we can see, such as the sun, the stars, and planets. Its origin is the singularity at the center of all creation. It connects with all the universes, galaxies, stars, and planets. These strands carry the frequencies and energy and all the information necessary to manifest our physical reality. On the period of December 21st to December 23rd, 2012, our sun will be moved between us and the center of our galaxy over a period of 3.5 days, at the same time that the energy frequency from the galactic center reaches the tipping point of physical manifestation. And, of course, that already happened. Next sub-article, Our Hollow Earth, it's called. And it has a picture here of an Earth at one of the poles of the Earth. A number of compelling arguments have been put forth to support the Hollow Earth theory. This includes science, mythology, history, and photographic evidence. Mythology speaks of lost civilizations, the Middle East, Shambhala, and the land of Agartha, with entrances across the globe and at both poles. The Lost Horizon, Shangri-La, was based on the stories of Shambhala. Scientific observations of the structure of the universe, from the extraordinary large to the extraordinary small, reveals the truth regarding the structure of all creation. As the Earth is a product of that same creation, it follows that it should contain the same structure. Observe the apple, the neutron star, and the atom. The most important force is not gravity, but electromagnetism and the geometries of rotating plasma vortices. There are hundreds of thousands of seismographic records available that represent soundings via earthquakes done from all over the Earth. There have always been seismographic findings which lacked an adequate, simple, and elegant explanation if we are to assume the Earth is solid, but fit perfectly with the Hollow Earth model. For example, peak earthquake intensity is found at the surface and at 800 miles down. It decreases and increases in intensity between these 2 points in a U-shaped configuration. No quakes are found below 800 miles. Earthquakes are statistically more intense near the surface. This is therefore consistent with two services. Also, the shadow zone findings don't have a good answer in the solid Earth model, but fit perfectly with the hollow Earth model. The shadow zone is an area on the surface located between 103 degrees and 144 degrees to an epicenter. There shouldn't be any seismic waves detected at these positions, but there are. And by the way, since I'm talking about hollow Earth, I'd like to point out that Andrew Bartus has said that the Earth, is it hollow? Well, hollow in the strict sense, no, but he claims that within the atoms and molecules that are inside the Earth can exist a whole new dimension density realm of higher consciousness entities that can reside within that atom. I guess you could sort of think of it as like the belt on Orion the cat's neck in the Men in Black movies that contained a ball that contained a whole entire galaxy. And at the end of the movie Men in Black, you could see zoom out of the Milky Way and you could see that we were at a ball and you saw an alien hand grab the ball and throw it, and you could sort of make the same analogy with the entities and the molecules and atoms within the Earth, in the hollow Earth, that can be thought of as a hollow Earth in and of itself, with that whole realm of existence within the atoms and molecules that basically show that size doesn't matter to some degree, and high-level consciousness beings can exist in something that we perceive as being extremely small, like an atom in a whole new realm. But anyway, getting on with the article, pictures taken from space almost always show cloud cover obscuring the polar positions. If these entrances, are actually there, they would likely be exchanging air of different temperatures, resulting in a condensation of water vapor and the development of cloud cover. However, sometimes the cloud cover is not obscuring the entrances. People working inside NASA have stated that they have been instructed to airbrush out those entrances on photographs, and Alex Collier did one show, and he talked about Hollow Earth in his presentations, show a picture from an encyclopedia, and he was like, I can't believe how this picture got in the encyclopedia, because there's a part at the top of the picture where you can actually see an opening at the pole, in the North Pole to some degree, that has to be some sort of a hole there. Moving on with the article. However, photographs are available that show anomalous findings in the polar regions consistent with such an entrance, as I just mentioned. After the U.S. military attack on the entrances in 2000, they were closed by the Agarthans with force fields and holograms. The Admiral Byrd diary was posted on the internet a number of years ago, which describes his flight into the North Pole in 1947 and his encounter with an inner Earth civilization. He also explored the South Pole entrance in 1956 for a distance on several thousand miles. Witnesses to the document's authenticity are still alive. His family knows of his subsequent trip to Washington, D.C. to communicate their message to President Harry Truman. The U.S. had just detonated 2 nuclear weapons on Japan the year before, and they warned us that we will destroy ourselves if we do not dismantle those weapons. The movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, the 2008 version, was created to communicate that encounter. Others, such as Dr. Fridtjof Nansen, Admiral George Dufek, Colonel Billy Fay Woodard, Olaf Janssen, and Sheldon Neidl, have also reported and described first-hand experiences of the inner Earth. Our United States military is treating all this information with fear, that to release this information would cause discord and collapse of social structure. They're afraid that other countries will get this information. We're not sure which countries they could be referring to, as it appears that nearly every nation on Earth has this information. The process of fear is being generated by the private contractors and the secret government who work there, who seek to control us and advance their own personal agendas. And next sub-article here is the Hollow Earth model and Hollow Earth Fact or Fiction. There's a picture here talking about how what the Hollow Earth sort of looks like. This looks sort of like the Sheldon Neidl model, and this raises a whole new series of questions regarding the conflict with what Andrew Bartz has said about how the Earth is not, strictly speaking, hollow, but has life within all the atoms and molecules within the Earth in different realms, and this picture doesn't seem to resonate with that, but I suppose from someone from a different level of consciousness, this is what it may look like, this Hollow Earth model, if they were to actually somehow be able to see it from a higher density of consciousness perspective. Then again, I'm just speculating on that. Moving on with the article. The crust of the Earth involutes. The inside surface and the outside surface are similar, with oceans and rivers and lakes and forests. The Earth's crust is about 800 miles thick. There is a zero-gravity point 400 miles down. There is a central sun located about 2,900 miles from the inner surface, which is composed of 2 counter-rotating fields of pulsating electromagnetic fields that radiate a bluish-white light with heat. It is about 600 miles in diameter, and it appears substantially brighter than our sun from the point of view of an observer on the surface. It also never sets. The central sun is held in position by electrogravitic repulsion. The plasma field that is generated is often seen as a colorful stream of light emanating from the poles called the aurora borealis. There is one ocean and a continent with lush vegetation, which grows much larger than that found here. The total land area is greater than the outside. There is one culture and 7 races of beings that live there in perfect harmony with themselves and nature. There is no wars or disease. Humans are taller and live longer than us. We were originally created to live 1,000 years, but our lives were cut short when we moved to the surface. This was the original Garden of Eden. The opening to the north entrance is found at coordinates 84.4 degrees north, 141 degrees east, which places it 560 miles northwest of the New Siberian Islands. There is a depression in the Earth's crust leading up to the opening, which is approximately 890 miles in diameter. There's a mammoth great ice barrier surrounding the opening, and inside the cave of the polar opening is another ring of ice called the Great Massive Freshwater Ice Pack. The actual entrance is 90 miles wide at its narrowest point. The Arctic Ocean is continuous with the inner ocean. The south opening is near the continent of Antarctica and is completely surrounded by United States military and civilian bases. It is much smaller than the north entrance. All large celestial bodies have the same structure. So moving on to the next article, next sub-article, the inner Earth culture. First part of the culture is the language. Solara Maru, or the solar language, similar to Sanskrit or ancient Hebrew. I wonder where he's getting this information. Culture of government. A council of 12, 6 men and 6 women, solve problems and act as guides. Appointments of variable periods are considered an honor. The high priest, an ascended master called the Brahitma, is the king of the world, and 2 sages, Manigna and Mahitma, create a triple spiritual authority. The culture of computers, quantum amino acid based, like all homes and cities with a highly spiritualized information network. So basically, it's a benevolent version of the NSA surveillance system. How can there be a surveillance system that's benevolent? And how can the people possibly go along with it thinking, do you think this surveillance system is going to be used for good purposes and not evil purposes like the NSA is, blackmail and such? Well, I mean, these are higher density consciousness entities we're talking about. So I suppose because they're highly spiritualized with this highly spiritualized information network, they can go along with it and use it in ways that do not violate privacy and all the rest of it. Anyway, cultures of libraries and universities. More vast than anything ever seen on the surface, covering knowledge accumulated over 55,000 years. The culture of money is non-existent. All basic needs are provided. A sophisticated barter system for non-basic needs. The culture of population is 1 billion. Culture of transportation, electromagnetic sleds and subway system. Maglev monorail exceeds 2,000 miles per hour. Moving sidewalks and elevators in intercity. Space travel to other star systems. Interdimensional and time travel using anti-grav vehicles. The culture of entertainment, theater, concerts, and the arts. Holodecks for interactive adventure. Program your favorite movie and become a part of it. Pursuing one's joy is not allowed, it's required. The culture of health. Disease doesn't exist, healing is accelerated. Culture of childbirth. 3 months, not 9 as on the surface world. Painless, water birthing, beautiful music, thought, and imagery. The culture of height. Any but mostly tall, from 6 feet to 12 feet. Physical size can be modified. And last but not least, age. Age is unlimited. Death does not exist. Maintain the appearance of middle age while being many thousands of years old. Disincarnate at will into the spiritual realm. The Anunnaki at the start of the Kali Yuga sealed off this kingdom at the surface around 3200 BC with Babylon, Nimrod, and the Reign of Terror. Their culture is far more advanced than anything on the surface of Earth. It was the decision of the inner Earth people to block our use of weapons of mass destruction. We will unite with them soon. Our next sub-article here is The View from Above. By the way, I just want to do a quick little check here to see how much longer I have. Oh, someone just called into the queue here. It says 111-111-1111, one of those numbers. If you're listening, great. If you do actually have a question for me, I'd like to ask you to... Oh, you hung up. Okay, if you have a question for me, call back in and leave a question mark, I was about to say, but whatever that was all about. But anyway, we're getting to the end of the article here. The View from Above. Earth is known as the accursed planet. Our evolution has been through pain, sorrow, suffering, and the illusion of physical death. It has not always been thus. Once mankind inhabited a beautiful and radiant planet. On that world, they knew none of these things, but in time they grew proud and arrogant. They made war among themselves and ultimately destroyed it. What exists today on that planet is a barren ring of asteroids and debris. In order that those entities might gain understanding, compassion, and brotherly love, they were reborn into the animalistic material world of a lesser planet called Earth. Suffering, sorrow, frustration, and death became their teachers. Their symbol became the man-beast. In the illusion of time and through rebirths, through repeated births and deaths, each entity is slowed and painfully evolving spiritually toward this former state. All human races on Earth came from elsewhere, and the evidence of their arrival and the remains of their ships may be found beneath the deserts and oceans. There are 5 major and at least 13 minor races found here on Earth in various stages of evolution. Our 5 major human races are the Lyrians, Syrians, Pleiadians, Centaurians, and Andromedans. The ETs deliberately avoid being photographed so they will not be hunted. They will not be hunted while on Earth. That's why they avoid being photographed. They often look just like us with minor distinguishing features. Osket is one such individual who allowed herself to be photographed by Billy Meyer, the Pleiadian contact on Earth, because she was leaving and would not return for a very long time. She is from the Dull universe, a parallel universe to ours. She is reportedly 360 years old. She came here to help the Earth people get through a very critical time in their history. What happens here affects her world. In the past, man has been unable to determine the truth, or has been, I'm just trying to get comfortable in my chair because I've been sitting for so long. In the past, man has been unable to determine the truth or has been frightened when confronted with it. This serves no purpose. Excuse my yawn, folks. The fear should never be present, as all men hold the truth within themselves, waiting to be awakened. When a race is in a higher state of evolution, we explain to them that they are not the only thinking beings in the universe. That's a quote from extraterrestrial Semyase, who was a Pleiadian instructor to Billy Meyer during the period 1975 to 1983. She was badly injured while on Earth and was taken to the Dull universe to be healed. The pictures are of ships that she piloted. Our bodies are merely containers for the self. We are soul beings. Our bodies are tools for learning. When the body dies, we continue intact and fully conscious. We're a part of the Creator. All souls are the same throughout all species and all universes. Only while we are incarnated on Earth are we blinded to our real selves. We are all immortal beings having a physical experience. We all coalesced light and love. We all share the same Creator of all things. It is the love and light of this and all worlds. It is the intelligence of all universes, the all that is. It flows from the great central sun, the great singularity, the highest vibratory substance in all universes. It is everywhere and nowhere, everything and nothing. It is all that was or will be. It is the forever. All knowledge and life comes from it. We are all projections from it. To know ourselves is to know it. All religions were man-made and instilled into our collective memory through the teachings of the ancient Pleiadian rebels. However, spiritual evolution is impeded through the false teachings. It is time for us to change, to free ourselves from our religious, political, and dogmatic scientific institutions. It's time to grow up. Earth is a living being. It is a uniquely beautiful planet. They are appalled at how badly we treat her. Humans are at a crossroads. We have been led down the wrong path by the controllers. Either we work hard to get out of this mess or we will be destroyed. A shift in consciousness is imminent and we must choose our path. They generally like us. They especially like our imaginations, creativity, and dreams. When we meditate, pray, or dream, they can hear us. Our subconscious and their awareness are linked through the quantum field. The great change is to come. It is unknown when, but they are certain that it will happen soon. We are being conditioned for that day. This conditioning occurs during normal restful sleep and meditation. Next sub-article is about the beginning, and there's a depiction here of something from ancient Sumeria, which seems to show ETs coming down in some sort of a UFO craft. In the beginning of this universe, Divine Creator created games. The game for this universe was called Polarity Integration. The goal was simple: experience polarity and integrate it. Once achieved, reunite with Divine Creator. The players of this game would be the humanoids and the reptilians. The humanoids were given a creation myth which stated that the humans could colonize any planet they choose, but if they find another race on the planet, they must negotiate a peace treaty and strive for harmony. The reptilians were given a creation myth that stated that they owned the galaxy and had the right to colonize any planet they chose. If a non-reptilian race is present, they could and should destroy it. Humans were created right-brain dominant or feminine polarized. Reptilians left-brain dominant or masculine polarized. The reptiles were given a head start so that their technology would start out superior to the humans. Their homeworld was called Aln, that's A-L-N, and was located in the Orion constellation. The reptiles already attained space travel when the humans were still swimming in the oceans. The humanoid homeworld was Avion in the Vega star system and existed initially as aquatic primates, the cetaceans. There's also a star map here trying to show where everything came from. But moving on, when humanoids became advanced enough for space travel around 22 billion years ago, excuse my yawn again. I wonder why I'm yawning so much. I got 10 hours of sleep last night. Well, I guess it's all this talking is causing me to not have a lot of air, so I need to yawn to get the air in my system. But anyway, when humans became advanced enough for space travel around 22 million years ago, they colonized another planet called Avalon. Soon the reptiles arrived and a conflict resulted. They infiltrated the colony with their advanced technology, and while courting friendship and trust, sowed the seeds of discord between those that wished to grow spiritually and those that wanted to grow technologically. A civil war ensued, and the reptiles supplied both sides with sufficient technology to annihilate themselves. This was round one. The reptiles won. And by the way, there is a documentary series, not on YouTube, but on Vimeo, called The Book of Man. Why the creator that didn't put on YouTube, I don't know, but because YouTube would have certainly gotten a lot more viewers. But it's on Vimeo. It's called The Book of Man, series of programs talking about history from a galactic perspective, reptilians and humans at wars, colonization, and all the rest of it. Definitely worth checking out. But moving on, next paragraph. The founders of the game moved some of the humanoids to Sirius B so they could be away from the reptilian interference. Over a very long period of time, two groups emerged called the etherics, the non-physicals, and the physicals. The etherics were feminine polarized and the physicals were male polarized. The founders then moved the physicals to Aln, the reptilians' homeworld, and the etherics were moved to Tiamat, the primordial earth. The reptilians weren't really happy about well, actually, before I say anything, a lot of people say Tiamat was what Earth was before one of Nibiru's moons collided with it. That's what Zechariah Sitchin and his Ken talk about. But others assert Tiamat and Earth are different. Tiamat was also known as Maldek, which was the planet that was destroyed and became the asteroid belt. Brad Johnson, E.T. Contactee, talked about that in one of his talks, talking about what Maldek was and how it used to be a great planet, and then it was destroyed and became the current asteroid belt that we know. So there's different stories as to what our solar system used to be like and what kind of exactly how the solar system cataclysms worked. Again, use your discernment. Moving on, the reptilians weren't really happy about the physical humanoids showing up on their planet, and soon the battles began and the colony was nearly destroyed. Some of the humans were forced into slavery and others went underground and formed the Black League. The Black League managed to escape Aln for Tiamat to join the etherics. The reptilians eventually found out about Tiamat and decided to colonize it. When they arrived, there was a proto-humanoid civilization in the etherics. The etherics sent positive energy to the reptilians in an effort to create a peaceful coexistence and get them to let go of their creation myth. It worked well for a very long time. It almost looked like integration had already occurred. There were snake reptiles on one side, dino reptiles on the other, and the humanoids in the middle. The humanoids had learned farming and were growing enough food to feed the whole planet. This was subsequently called the Great Experiment, the forerunner of planet Earth. This was the first time etherics had been used to obtain a peaceful coexistence, and it was amazingly successful. However, word got out that a planet existed that was living in peace and harmony, and the ruling Orion reptilians decided to pay a visit. This was, of course, in violation of the creation myth, and they immediately started sowing the seeds of discord among the reptilians in an attempt to convince them that the humanoids were secretly planning their destruction. It took a very long time for the ruling reptilians to work this plan through because the etherics kept sending thoughts of love and harmony, and the physical humanoids kept sending them food. But ultimately, the creation myth won out, and the reptilians developed a plan to destroy the humanoids through germ warfare. The proto-humanoids understood that this was what was happening and decided that they would leave the planet and go to the Pleiades aboard the starship Pegasus, and the etherics would mutate back into the aquatic primates, the whales and dolphins, and maintain the biosphere. A plan was devised to rid the planet of the reptiles through implosions of the underground fusion generators. About 98% of the reptiles were destroyed in the ensuing worldwide cataclysm, but a few survived and were present when the remaining planet was repopulated as Earth. Another small group was given sanctuary aboard the Pegasus and went to the Pleiades. Another group fled to the planet Maldek. This all happened about 8 million years ago. A long period of peace existed after these events. The land guardianship role was vacant, so the cetaceans and spiritual hierarchy began searching for a replacement, which they eventually found on the fourth planet of the Vega star system, the birthplace of present-day humans. They were aquatic primates, and at that time, but through assistance of the Galactic Guardians, their evolution was allowed to jump forward to become the Vegan humans and subsequently create a new Galactic Guardian group. This was about 4.5 million years ago. A Galactic Federation was created, and in the ensuing migration over 2.5 million years, the Galactic Federation agreed to colonize Earth again. The Earth colony Hyboria was created in the northern lands near present-day Florida. The Earth axis has shifted since then. It was a civilization that existed for nearly a million years, beginning 2 million years ago. The Lyrians decided that in order to live in complete harmony, they would eliminate the self-defense function. They did this through genetic engineering. However, it left them defenseless, so they developed a warrior race which lived separate from their civilization. They were genetically engineered with enhanced adrenaline output to react more aggressively than natural. However, this change caused an imbalance which limited the ability of this altered being to connect to its creator. These new helpers were unstable and threatening to the civilization that created it. As a solution to the problems, the Lyrians exiled the whole population of altered beings to a sparsely inhabited planet in a far-off corner of the galaxy. To ensure this would never be revealed to anyone, they altered all memory of this experience and no records were allowed to be taken. This new planet was called Earth. Humanity was left on this prison planet to work out the genetic imbalance through adaptation. Sometime after humans were marooned on Earth, a different extraterrestrial race arrived and attempted to enslave them. However, they did not comprehend human warlike capabilities and were repulsed. They have been planning retribution ever since and now confer with the present-day hierarchy at the top of the secret societies. The planetary awareness of these beings has been in the form of the beast or Satan or the devil. If their plan is allowed to be completed, the planet could be destroyed. They don't care. They only want revenge. A war of liberation broke out in Lyria about 360,000 years ago, during which the terrorizing army fled to the Pleiades and took possession of the Hesperides system. The name was changed to the Plagia system in honor of their leader. She led an expedition to the Sol system, that's our solar system, and took control of Mars, Earth, and Malona. Conflict broke out on Malona over control of the planetary government. Earth was evacuated back to Lyra Vega. The war on Malona ultimately pulverized the planet and caused significant destruction on Mars, Venus, and Earth. And by the way, a lot of that Book of Man series on Vimeo that I referenced, that is probably a source for this information in this article. Alex Collier and others played a big role in the information in that video, and Collier himself, I believe, endorsed watching that Book of Man presentation. Moving on, a peaceful group of Lyrian Vegans migrated back to Earth many years later and developed a higher civilization of Hyboria, which lasted 6,000 years and was again destroyed by wars. About 53,000 years ago, wars again broke out in the Lyrian system, and a leader named Pelagon came to Earth with 70,000 men to establish another civilization which lasted 10,000 years and ultimately was again destroyed by wars. About 100,000 people fled to the Bernard star, that's Beta Centaurus, while Earth was thrown back to the Stone Age. They returned after 7,000 years under the leadership of Atlant to create the great Atlantean civilization. Okay, is Atlant the same as Poseidon? Because legends and myths talk about how Poseidon, the Greek god, was the father of Atlantis. Maybe something that requires more research. His wife, Caritide, created Lesser Atlantis, and his father, Marus, created the great civilization of Mu. These blossomed into a planetary civilization which lasted 18,000 years until in 13,000 BC a group of scientists tried seizing power. They were trying to create a race to support their violent tendencies. Before the scientists were subdued and escaped back to Beta Centaurus, much of the continent of Atlantis was destroyed. 2,000 years later, the same group returned for revenge under the leadership of Arus, the barbarian, and his 200 sub-leaders. He conquered Hyboria and began to systematically subjugate the rest of the world by attacking India, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, and surrounding areas. It was Arus and his men who were the sons of heaven that bred with the earth females called the Evas to create the biblical Adam and Eve, the ancestors of many present-day humans. The descendants of Arus left the planet in 26 AD after creating Emmanuel and implanting the galactic laws and philosophies in humanity. The origins of Lemuria began on the continent and was now the Pacific Ocean around 900,000 BC and lasted until 26,000 BC. So it was the Archon control system basically took control of Earth to some degree at the same time Lemuria began. It was a Lyrian, Syrian-styled civilization with democratic principles of governance. I believe that's a mistake. A democratic principle of governance is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. I'm sure you meant to write a republic principle of government, where the minority has the say over the majority if the majority does tyranny. Moving on, it created a number of daughter empires during its existence. The most important of those was Atlantis, which existed in part on a huge island continent in the center of the Atlantic Ocean, the Libyan Egyptian Empire in Africa, and the Yu Empire of the, Central Tibet and China. Due to the influence of renegade Pleiadians, Centaurians, Anunnaki, the Atlanteans began developing a hierarchical society which led to fleeings of separateness and superiority. After they were granted equal guardianship of the planet 26,000 years ago by the Lemurians, they began plotting ways to grab the sole guardianship. They found allies in the colonies of Alpha Centauri and the Pleiades, mostly through the Galactic Federation outpost colonies that shared the concept of a hierarchical society. They and various Pleiadian and Centaurian rebel renegades plotted the destruction of Lemuria. Their plan was a technical success. However, it resulted in the destruction of one of Earth's moons, the entire continent of Lemuria, cataclysmic events over the entire Earth, and a mini ice age. The Atlanteans, with the assistance of the Pleiadian and Centaurian rebels, used spaceships with force fields to cause one of Earth's moons to spiral inward, and just as the moon reached the Lagrange point, they blasted it with particle beam weaponry. This resulted in a massive meteor shower over Lemuria, with the resulting rupture of its subterranean gas chambers and the sinking of the entire continent. The physical destruction of Lemuria was so complete that nothing remained except legends. This was Great Flood number 1. And okay, and about the mini ice age I mentioned earlier, I read Michael Tsarian's book, Atlantis, Alien Visitation and Genetic Manipulation. He suggests that there were 2 great floods, but the ice age that supposedly ended at the fall of Atlantis did not actually exist and is just a mainstream science and history lie to conceal the fact that Atlantis existed on a global scale during that time. Make of that whatever you will. By the way, 3 minutes to go until 2 p.m. Eastern. If anybody wants to keep listening after this, you will have to call into the show 646-478-4747 because the live feed will be up in about 3 minutes. Atlantis had its beginnings around 100,000 years ago. It was destroyed 3 times. The last time was coincident with Great Flood number 3. Now we're talking about 3 Great Floods. In the second incarnation, which began 25,000 years ago, they had made great technological progress, which was far greater than anything man attained today. However, it lacked sufficient spiritual development and became locked into materialistic endeavors. They wished to replace the clan structure of Lemurian society with an elite structure. This concept of governance was not well received and resulted in a series of costly civil wars across the entire planet. The clan structure is based on groups of people who all share the same vision and goals about what should be accomplished in their respective fields. It was similar to our present-day scientists and technical trade groups, except that these trade groups also had limited governing authority. It meant that the most knowledgeable people were the ones in charge. It has been the elite form of governance that has been in place on this planet ever since Atlantis came to power 25,000 years ago. They brought in one of the artificial Maldek moons to help balance the planet. The destruction of one of Earth's 2 moons caused an unstable wobble in the Earth. 90 seconds until the end of the live feed. The British accent just sent on my ears here, earphones. This artificial moon was in fact a fully armed battle station. It was also an attempt to signal to the rebellious holdouts that military superiority was at hand, which was ready and able to end all civil wars and rebellions. The rebellions instead continued for over the entire 10,000-year period of this Middle Empire. There was a period of terrorism, torture, and inquisitions. They created a superior ruling class which was sustained by the myth of a god king. A single supreme god king ruled over all. 60 seconds to live feed is up, by the way. Following the destruction of Lemuria, the Libyan Egyptian Empire negotiated an understanding that allowed them to maintain some autonomy over their own affairs. However, they did have to make some concessions to do this. The only other empire of significance was the U, that's Y-U with an umlaut above it, which refused to bow down to the Atlanteans. They even issued several decrees demanding an apology to the other empires for their careless and inhumane destruction of Lemuria and the subsequent cataclysms. The Atlanteans, joining with the Europeans, countered with demands to rescind the decrees. The U Empire refused. The combined forces of the Atlanteans, the Egyptians, and the renegade Pleiadian Centaurian allies forced the remnants of the U Empire underground. They still exist today at the Kingdom of Agartha in deep underground caverns beneath the Himalayan mountains and under present-day Tibet. The entrances from Tibet were all closed after China invaded in 1949. It is not clear, but it is believed that they were searching for the entrances. Attempts to find it using modern-day tunneling equipment have been unsuccessful. Towards the end of the Second Empire, autocratic rule was in full force, and the remaining rebel alliance was exiled to southern Europe, to a place called Ionia, Greece. And there they would stay until they renounced their ways and compiled with the ruling authority. This rebel alliance consisted of the former ruling elite as well as leading scientists. They decided instead to create a Lemurian-style governance with plans to ultimately bring their government back to Atlantis. In other words, they became even more organized and dangerous than before they were exiled. This did not sit well with the ruling authority of Atlantis. The rebels had defied them at every turn, and now they were a greater threat than before. A plan was devised to end the problem by destroying Ionia by a method similar to the way they destroyed Lemuria. The plan required the assistance of the rebel Pleiadians and Centaurians. This plot was discovered by the Ionians. The result was that the Ionians were able to counter the attack by interrupting their energy beam from Nibiru, and the moon exploded over Atlantis instead. Atlantis, therefore, was destroyed in much the same manner as it had destroyed Lemuria. The Atlantean subcontinent was reduced to a few scattered islands. One of the two firmament layers was destroyed as well. This was Great Flood number 2. It happened 13,000 years ago. This event did not completely destroy Atlantis, however, and attempts were made to reconstitute the civilization with what remained. They developed a crystal technology that was capable of transmitting energy wirelessly over great distances. They used the device to propel and guide airplanes, service vehicles, and submarines. They cast solar energy and also found a way to tap the collective consciousness of the human mind. They eventually found a way to use the collective mind in harmony with the crystals of the earth as a power source. The people became subservient to this system of mind and power control against their will, a la the Matrix. They also found a way to harness the power of the crystals to rejuvenate a person endlessly. One of the crystals is in the biblical Ark. Several thousand years ago, before the first flood, the Anunnaki showed up in a ceremonious fashion and presented themselves as gods from heaven to the Atlanteans. They started plugging into the ego consciousness of the leaders by stimulating and fueling their base desires. New technologies were offered as gifts, and in return they would do their bidding in holding influence over their subjects in rather depraved ways. They were instrumental in creating mind-earth resonance devices, and even came up with a way to alter the mind of the people to obey their wishes through a slow-pitched electromagnetic pulse transmitted through the crystal generator network. This sound, which was inaudible to the human ear, caused a release of neurochemicals, the peptides that influence behavior, that caused irrational emotional states and submission to authority. They began attacking lesser civilizations to conquer and take their resources. Through genetic engineering, they also helped develop a mutant human who was disconnected from his higher self. These humans would be unaware of the spirituality and would be much easier to control. These evolved into present-day humans. The final destruction of Atlantis occurred sometime around 10,000 years ago. There was a conflict in the Middle East between the Rama Empire, the Egyptian Empire, and the Sumerian Empire. In an attempt to end the conflict, they destroyed some of the crystal temples that held up the firmament. The idea was to open a hole just big enough to flood the enemy out of their positions. However, there was a simultaneous destruction of multiple temples on both sides, which destroyed a sufficient number to cause the entire firmament to collapse. This caused all of the water ice suspended in the atmosphere to come crashing down in a cascade effect over the entire planet. What remained of Atlantis was gone forever beneath the waves. A significant portion of Atlantis still exists at the bottom of the ocean in the central Atlantic, off the coast of the Carolinas, the Bahamas, and the southwestern coast of Cuba. This was Great Flood in number 3. Yes, and this firmament, Credo Mutwa, Zulu shaman, I seem to recall when he talked to David Icke about Atlantis, he mentioned how this firmament did exist above the earth, this water ice suspended in the atmosphere to help the people in that civilization do the spiritual things and metaphysical things that they did. And there's actually a picture of the firmament here. Firmament 2, 35,000 to 38,000 feet from the Earth's surface. Firmament 1 was 15,000, 18,000 feet from the Earth's surface. The firmament was a layer of frozen water ice that looked like a clear lens. At certain times of the day, when light was reflected, it served as a mirror of the world below. Crystal temples all over the earth held up the firmaments. The firmament was created before humans existed. They were placed here by the game lords to allow for the development of sentient life approximately 35 million years ago. It has been destroyed and repaired many times. It consisted of 2 layers of water ice that acted as a shield against harmful radiation and caused there to be a uniform climate across the Earth's surface, the entire Earth's surface. The temperature was in the high 70s near the equator and the low 70s at the poles. The winds were a modest 5 miles per hour. The skies were always sunny, and there were few clouds, no hard rain, no significant winds, and no storms. The ice of the firmament caused a lensing effect which made the moon, sun, and stars all look bigger than they otherwise appear. The firmament held about as much water as all the oceans and rivers and streams on the planet, so when it came down, it would appear as though the sky was literally falling down. Of course, the empires of Sumeria, Rama, and Egypt were all destroyed in the subsequent flood. The flood spread worldwide to encompass the Americas, Asia, Europe, and Africa. Every indigenous culture has a flood story. It rained for 40 days, and in that time, an entire world civilization was destroyed. What were left were legends and myths of gods and goddesses from an age which was completely erased from the earth. Approximately 2 million people survived the event on the surface. The Agartha-Lemurian Empire also survived, as they were already protected underground. The Atlantean rulers and their associates fled to the star system of Hadar, which is the Beta Centauri system. The people of Hadar insisted that nothing should be done to save what was left of the human race. An argument ensued with the Pleiadians over the issue, but the renegade Pleiadians won out. They intervened and destroyed many areas, including the Middle East, Sumeria, the Central Valley in Mexico, which is the Maya and other Mesoamerican civilizations, the Indus Valley area of India, and the north-central China near the city of Xi'an, and the entire Nile River area basin in the land of the Egyptians. So the restoration of life on this planet was once again in the hands of the same people who caused the problems in the first place. It was their intervention that triggered the destruction of Lemuria, the destruction of Atlantis, and the entire world civilization. Through it all, it still didn't sink into the Pleiadian rebels what they were doing to mankind. In the period of 1500 BC through 1200 BC, the renegade Pleiadians were forced to withdraw from direct intervention by the main defense forces of the Pleiadian Star League. This finally brought the reign of terror to an end. The spiritual hierarchy was responsible for sending the Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, Akhenaten, and other ascended masters to show us the way, the truth, and the light. So this guy does seem to subscribe to the idea that Akhenaten was not really a bad guy. He was a good guy, and the priestly caste, as George Cavazos said, were the bad guys. This planet deceives the spiritual consciousness. Other attempts to bring back the Syrian Lemurian-style governance included Noah and the Hebrews. Noah didn't get very far after the Exodus. The Hebrews constituted the concept of judges to bring the people a concept of a society led by spiritual beings. However, these attempts failed because the human psyche was not ready for it, and it was decided that planting the idea of a Christ consciousness would grow into the human psyche over thousands of years and be ultimately successful. Emperor Constantine modified these teachings in 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea. Because of the destruction of the firmament, a significant amount of damaging radiation has been allowed to hit the planet's surface. This causes disastrous effects on living things. There was no reasonable chance that humans would be able to survive over the long term independent of outside support with their spiritual selves disconnected. Most humans don't know that the primary reason that their primary mission on this planet is to be a guardian of the planet. that without their conscious support of the biosphere in concert with the cetaceans, all life on the planet falls apart literally. The only thing that's still holding it together right now is the cetaceans and the spiritual hierarchy. A guardian is one who brings in the energies of creation and regulates them for the biosphere. The Earthline Guardian is a man. It is a very unique process whereby the creative life energies given by the spiritual hierarchy are physically transmuted into Maton's life energies. Chanting, singing, dancing, ceremony, meditation, and all forms of this process. A guardian must consciously and subconsciously maintain these interdimensional energies so that they are dispersed in a proper manner. Using a universal law, a guardian images then combines this with feeling to create. Children do this instinctively when they when they play and sing and jump around, although this is decidedly less focused. Okay, next sub-article. Let me just do a quick little look here. I see I have a couple of callers here, that 491 number and the 586 number, and none of you have question marks next to your numbers, so I guess I'm not going to be taking you to call in. Dream Mastery is the only one here in the chat, although I don't know how Dream Mastery could be listening there, because the live feed is up, but by all means, keep listening, because this show is not over yet. Next sub-article, Forces of Dark. The forces of dark upon this planet are interfering with the natural ascension and causing disharmony. One of the tools being used is the television. This keeps us in a receptive hypnotic trance state. Other tools include politics, war, religion, sex, material pleasures, games, and amusements. The core of this hierarchy, the Illuminati, are programmed at birth through magical methods to believe that they have reincarnated through a long line of beings committed to a destructive plan to remove mankind from spirituality. Earth and its inhabitants are firmly within the grip of this influence. Their plan has been to hold us at our lowest energy level so we cannot take advantage of the dimensional leap of the shift of the cycles. They plan instead to take us to an even lower vibrational level and strip away our remaining soul energy and combine that with the cosmic shift 0-point energy to cause this entire sector of space to shift from positive to negative. Interestingly, this is precisely one of the capabilities of the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, which has created so much controversy in recent times. This same plan was interrupted by the sinking of Atlantis some 13,000 years ago. A mutant, nearly soulless human has been created through the use of ritualistic black magic, which cannot see or understand beyond his 5 senses. Earth was created as a place for all souls of the universe to experience at least once in their evolution, so that they may learn to integrate the physical with the spiritual. However, instead of moving on, most souls have become stuck in a loop that has bottlenecked the evolution of the entire universe. They have succumbed to the materialism, the pleasures, and the pain, and have been treating them as a source of all priorities. Earth has become contaminated and is heading towards its own destruction. The perpetrators, however, are an even more diabolical agenda. They wish to create a negative polarity universe. There is more potential for total mass destruction than any other time in the history of the universe. This cannot be allowed, as this contamination would then spread throughout all of creation. All that is good and all that is love would be destroyed. Many universes are in jeopardy. The ETs cannot interfere and they cannot save us. The law of non-interference applies to all interactions with outside civilizations. They must follow universal laws. We have to choose to save ourselves. Help is available to those who ask for it through meditation or prayer, but only to help us go where we choose to go, no more, no less. You ask an ET contactee, do the ETs affect our reality on Earth or do they not? The answer you will usually hear is something to the effect of yes and no. Well, they're supposed to not interfere because of the law of non-interference, but of course if we ask them, or if the situation is extremely dire, they'll find some excuse to get involved, and I love them for doing that, and you should too, because there are space brothers and interdimensional brothers and sisters. Okay, next sub-article. We're almost done here. Need to get a drink first. All right, first contact. Every 78,000 years, there's a harvest of those beings that are ready to make the transition to the next frequency. This time, it's not just us, it's the planet too. This event will cause chaos among populations of people not sufficiently prepared. Many will come to the stress and die. Yes, and we could be due for that in America with the collapse of the dollar, which is supposed to happen. Now, we've been down this road before, always talk about the dollar collapsing and all that, but it appears now all the high-level consciousness, spiritual folks, and the ET contactees are talking about and relaying their message of the ET contacts they contact. They're the ones who are saying that in around this fall equinox to winter solstice 2016 time period that we're in, you will see the end of the dollar, and the Americans will have to pay the brunt of the collapse to some degree, and hopefully people will be ready for it. Fortunately, due to the efforts of the Earth and the Galactic Spiritual Hierarchy and the Syrian Governing Council, Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Federation on March 5th, 1993. Despite the fact that we are not yet technically a galactic civilization, Earth and the people of Earth were granted full membership because the spiritual hierarchy has requested it, the survival of the planet requires it, and the ET involvement in planetary activities allows it. There isn't time for mankind to come to a solution within itself without outside help. The Earth is going to shift whether we're ready or not. The harvest of all has therefore been permitted. In essence, we were given the keys to the kingdom. Following this action by the Galactic Federation, the Dark Side, the Ankarian Alliance, and the Reptilians put down their arms and joined the forces of light, the Galactic Federation. The Treaty of Ankara was signed with the many forces of dark beginning in early 1995 and through the ensuing several years. The Anunnaki then withdrew their negative influence upon the Earth and left us in the forces of light. Peace through the galaxy has happened over the last 10 years, which has not existed since before the Great Galactic War began millions of years ago. This left the Illuminati without an overlord for the first time since Atlantis. Our solar system entered into a vast region of space called the photon belt in the mid-90s. This belt is in the shape of a toroid and is composed of light photon particles. It was first seen by scientists in 1961 near the Pleiades star system. Its presence was noted in the early 18th century by Sir Edmund Halley, the discoverer of Halley's Comet. He found that 3 of the stars in the Pleiades were not in the same position recorded in the classical times by various Greek astronomers. About 100 years later, it was discovered by Friedrich Wilhelm Bessel that all the stars in the Pleiades moved in a prescribed way through 5.5 seconds of arc per century. At a right angle to the movement of these stars, there was a photon belt shaped like a toroid with a thickness of 760 trillion miles. Every 26,000 years, our solar system passes near or through it. We are already moving into the photon belt and will ultimately move into a position about 3 light years from Sirius, which is approximately 8.3 light years away, in the 2012-2014 time period, which of course is past. The photon belt will cause the Earth to undergo massive physical changes. There's a picture here of a Syrian female of life scientist clan, holds a healing device, which sort of looks like a boomerang. But getting back to the article, the Syrians are the parent race of many Earth humans. They look just like us with fair skin and light or blonde hair and a little taller. They are very bright spiritual beings who are vastly superior technology. They have the ability to phase shift and disappear, levitate, transmute matter in existence in multiple dimensions. They are normally for thousands of our years. They live on the 4th planet in the Sirius B solar system. Their planet is slightly larger than ours and has a controlled climate in the mid-70 degrees Fahrenheit temperature range. Most of them live underground in crystal cave-like structures, as they believe that the surface of the planet should exist in its original pristine condition. Most galactic cosmic beings do this. They see all life as connected and therefore should be nurtured and supported in every way possible. The magnetic fields of the Earth, the Sun, the planets, moons, and all matter in the solar system are being altered right now. The ozone hole is currently being repaired. Much of the northern hemisphere is complete, and they are concentrating now on the southern hemisphere. There will be a magnetic shift which will cause the entire exterior of the planet to be a single pole, north or positive. The Atlantean and Lemurian continents will be restored, the sea levels will drop, and the firmament returned. How long will that take? The first contact is done with all civilizations when they become galactic. It is both a part of our admittance into the Federation and integral to the coming Ascension. We will become citizens of the cosmos. This will happen soon. A temporal governing council will be created consisting of 4 groups. These groups are representatives of the Central Sun Council, members of the ruling Council of Agartha, representatives of the Galactic Federation, and the Earth Advocacy groups. This ruling council will prepare Earth's population for the events to come. Prior to first contact, there will be an announcement from our own government following conferences between the first contact personnel and ascended masters. It is unclear if the United States government will ever allow this to occur, so it may occur without their consent by simply turning off all power in the air and on the ground. Either way, it will occur. Announcements will occur over all communication mediums, including internet, television, radio, and via telepathy. Preceding the event, all power on the planet will be shut off. Shortly thereafter, mass landings of spacecraft will occur. The skies will be filled with hundreds of thousands of ships with both the Federation and former alliance. All of the initial contact team will be humans that are Sadian, Pleiadian, Centaurian, Andromeda, Agartha, and Illyrian. Others will follow. 40% of ETs are humanoid. A fleet of scout craft will move to pre-assigned areas and lock their landing coordinates. At the appropriate time, they will uncloak and link up with etheric and ascended masters. They will emit calming energies over a 30-minute period, then start to land slowly using a corkscrew-like formation. A force field will surround the ships and be illuminated in ever-changing bright colors. There will even be an inaudible sounding of the trumpets to announce their arrival. This will look like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen or experienced. It will take 9 days for the event to unfold. It is understood by all concerned that there will be some who will view these landings as a threat. It's going to be like another Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast, they say. Not all will greet the coming changes with open arms or be able to make the transition. The ETs are prepared for this and have the ability to neutralize any attacks without harm to anyone. All of the methods employed will be done without a show of weapons and will be done in love and gentleness. They come to help the planet and the cosmos fulfill its destiny. Earth is a source seed of the galaxy. This is all divinely decreed. They have neither the desire nor the need to control anyone. They do not wish to be worshipped. By their works, you will know them. Like attracts like. Use discernment. Follow your heart. Note that the ETs do not possess a duality. They take things quite literally. Following the landings, everyone will be invited to see the ships and participate in the learning modules. These modules will allow rapid transfer of information to allow us to get up to speed with whom and what we are and where we're going. We can't proceed if we don't understand what is happening. We have already made one of three choices. 1, ascend with the planet. 2, move into the crystal cities of inner Earth. And 3, use the ships to escape the planet and transfer to a new Earth or go home. Choices 1 and 2 require us to shift our frequencies to match the Earth. There will not be a third-dimensional Earth when this is over. The Ascension begins December 21st, 2012, and ends March 21st, 2013. The Ascension with the Earth in our own realities to ascend with the Earth on our own requires the use of natural stargates and the energies of our beings. These stargates will take the ship of Vesica Pisces with faint bluish halos. They will open all over the planet. They link us directly with a fifth-dimensional frequency and a place of sanctuary. Option 2 is an extraterrestrially assisted process. For those not able to ascend, option 3 takes them to an Earth-like planet to start over in the lower third dimension or the second dimension if that is their destiny. Option 3 also allows starseeds from other planets to return home. For those not making up their minds until the last second, beaming will be an option. Spacecraft will hover with their beams activated, and the rescue occurs when the subject walks into the beam. Either before or after the cataclysm, there will be a technology transfer of 3 devices: a replicator, a free energy device, and a transportation device. The replicator will create any solid objects such as food, clothing, furniture, and tools. Every home or business will get a free energy device that will generate electricity through a technology called zero-point photon energy. All pollution-generating power plants will be shut down as they will no longer be required. All personal device for moving using anti-gravity as well as instantaneously using teleportation will also be provided, which allows travel by thought. It will not require roads and will not require new skills to use. Pollution-generating planes and automobiles will no longer be used. Wherever you want to go, there you are. Why would they do this? Our service civilization is like a cancer to the Earth. She must shed her negative energy to ascend in vibrational frequency. As she transforms, the irritating, non-harmonic artificial structures must be destroyed. We, therefore, must also generate positive energy to transform with her. Not even ETs can stop the Earth from doing this, but they can help us adapt to get through the intact. Their advanced technology makes it possible. Beginning about 2 months after first contact, there will be a rapid cleansing of the air and water systems of the planet, a restoration of all ecosystems. Sometime around the 6th month, people will undergo full consciousness training for what is to come. 1 to 2 months later, everyone who is able will go to the crystal cities. A great number of crystal cities have been prepared for this event by the Syrians and the Garthans. During this time, Earth people will physically transform with the Earth into their light bodies and return to full consciousness. This will be aided by the use of special metaphysics chambers while living in the crystal cities. It is believed that the Earth surface will undergo massive transformations during this time, which will include planet-wide volcanism, tsunamis, and super hurricanes. Okay, it seems kind of counterintuitive that we're going to be going into higher consciousness, and we're going to have to go through volcanism, tsunamis, and super hurricanes. But then again, just like a butterfly needs to shed its cocoon to become a butterfly, Earth will have to shed its outer layer to become a 4D, 5D entity, and that's why we may have to see some super wide volcanism, tsunamis, and super hurricanes for that to happen. Will Yellowstone erupt? Who knows? I don't know. Prior to this, there'll be some events. Reportedly, a second sun will be unveiled shortly, which was originally Jupiter. The Jupiter we see, as well as many other stars, are actually place markers created by ET motherships. I've heard different stories about that, but well, maybe there's some connection there. Like Andrew Bartz has said, Jupiter is the joker of the deck, so to speak, causing a variety of different things to happen to our consciousness, being the joker. But he never said anything about being a place marker created by ET motherships. Following this, the Earth may start rotating backwards. The ETs are hoping that we sleeping people take notice and wake up. All children will be taken following the initial wave of light workers. The light workers are taken first to assist those who are to follow. The children will be reunited with their parents once out of harm's way. All adults that are able will then be taken. Many will be placed in stasis. The technology currently in place is such that the entire planet's human population can and will be removed to safety at a moment's notice within 15 minutes. There may be little to no warning. The planets Venus, Mars, and Malona will be restored to their original pristine condition during the transformation process. The Earth will once again have 2 moons and a perfect 24-hour day. The inner and surface worlds will unite. For many, their destiny will be to repopulate Earth, and these planets will be a part of the evolution of a galactic culture. Others will return to their home planet. Earth is to be a galactic crossroads. A great many of us will become Earth ambassadors. The crystal cities will look exactly like our own home environments, but will exist holographically inside a large crystal structure. Each crystal structure is divided into 4 vertical sections, which include the landing bay, recreation meeting levels, and the 2 residential levels. We will be able to move around and visit with anyone and learn and experience all the new things about ourselves and our new futures. We will be in the transformation process for several days, and then we will go to our homes inside the Earth proper. Our physical bodies will be transformed on a molecular level from carbon-based to a more crystalline structure. Most of the changes which we will undergo will be to reconstitute and reconnect the DNA that already exists in each of us. We are already galactic humans, but we're disconnected from full consciousness by the Anunnaki. Our extra DNA was never completely removed because the destruction of Atlantis 13,000 years ago interrupted the process. Through a theta transformation, our bodies will become semi-etheric, meaning that we will be able to exist in a solid form or a not-so-solid form. We will be able to change our density at will. We will no longer be living in a strictly three-dimensional reality. Our reality will be that we will live forever and go wherever and whenever we wish. We won't know when the big event occurs. We won't know when the big event will occur until just 2 to 6 months before it happens. We will be offered information and counseling where prepares for what is to come after the initial mass landings. During the actual transformation process, we will be in an underground crystal city. Holographic emitters will stimulate our home environments or whatever environments we choose. Everything we see, touch, hear, smell, or taste will look absolutely real, and everything will be exactly as it was on the surface. We will be transported there intact from the surface. The actual move to the inner Earth will take less than 1 second and will be preceded by a sense of falling. We will each have a guide to show us the way throughout the process. The inner Earth has mountains which are taller and jungles that are denser and meadows that are larger and more colorful than anything on the surface. There is a vibrant life everywhere. There is a single civilization of Agartha which is governed by its citizens who are all truly sovereign. The autocratic systems are not used. This type of governance is the same one that existed 26,000 years ago at the time of Lemuria, except we will have greater powers. We will be entering into an almost indescribable golden age of galactic peace prophesied over 2,000 years. We will be able to learn about everything that ever occurred to us in past lives, about where our families come from and how we got here. You will be able to walk and talk with anyone who has ever lived on this planet. We will learn everything that has been hidden about our past. We will be one with your spiritual hierarchy. The astral and physical worlds will merge. We will learn to once again work cooperatively with the Sedations and be co-guardians of the planet and eventually with the entire solar system, galaxy, and universe. We will be the creators of new worlds, the supreme overseers of the galaxy, and intergalactic ambassadors. Our new abilities will include telepathy, telekinesis, clairaudience, clairvoyance, and the materialization of matter. We will have perfect vision, perfect hearing, and perfect bodies, in essence, physical angels. Any physical impairment which existed previously will be gone. We will have to learn the rules that govern this new world. The rules of etiquette and social interactions must be followed. Intruding on the mind of another individual without permission will be forbidden. Even plucking an apple from a tree will require permission from the tree. With great power comes great responsibility. Okay, I only have 2 articles left here. The first sub-article, the Galactic Federation. There's a picture here of different ETs and star races. One is hugging hands with a human, it looks like, and it says a loving friendship of heavenly angels from Galactic Federation of planets with Earthsmen in a spaceship. But, all right, I got half an hour until the show completely ends. Let me get a quick drink here. I'll probably get this done in less than half hour, by the way. Let me just take a quick look here to see who's still with me. I got a couple callers in the queue. Glad to see you there. No one in the chat, but no surprise there. I don't think they can hear this. So here, let me get to the article. The Galactic Federation is an organization of humanoids from all over the galaxy and beyond. It was created after the destruction of the first human civilization on Avion in the Lyrian star system near Vega roughly 4.5 million years ago. It was created to oversee the many scattered human colonies, aid communication, and foster peace between the different races, particularly with the reptilians, the reptoids, and the dinoids. It sees itself as a sort of United Nations of the star system, although it's a lot more benevolent than the United Nations of Earth. There are over 200,000 member systems within the Federation. The highest level of the Federation Council, the Council of Nine, is located on Vega, the birthplace of humanity. There are 14 secondary level councils called the Regional Councils. The biggest and most relevant is the Syrian Regional Council, of which will be a full-fledged member. And since it says Vega is the birthplace of humanity, it's worth pointing out that the precession of the equinox in about maybe 12,000 years or so, our new North Star, it will no longer be Polaris. It will be Vega, the birthplace of humanity. Make of that whatever you will. The regional councils act as forums for various issues. They help set up policy and act as a court of last resort for problems between star systems and star leagues. They also function as a means for control and technological exchange, as well as issues arising from trade and intellectual property. There are also local star systems governing councils, which Earth and its fellow star systems, let me start over. There are also local star system governing councils which Earth and its fellow solar system citizens will form. There are two types. One, a single star system council, and two, a star league council consisting of 20 or more star system councils. The largest in the Syrian system is the Pleiadian Star League, which consists of 50 star systems. It's also called the Pleiadian Star League. The local headquarters is on Iapetus, a moon of Saturn, which Jim Mars in his book Our Occult History talks about how Iapetus is an artificial body masquerading as a natural moon, and the equatorial bulge that surrounds Iapetus is definitely not a natural body and has to be some artificial construct, he asserts. Moving on, Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Federation on March 5th, 1993, due to a special case dispensation from the Galactic Federation on the rules of membership, which requires the citizens of the planet to already have full consciousness of their place in the cosmos. Earth was the first planet to be seated with the spiritual hierarchy and has been the primary cause of human sentiency in the third dimension. Earth humans have succeeded in integrating the powers of dark and light solely on a third-dimensional level, and no other planetary civilization has ever done that. We are the showcase civilization of the galaxy. The Federation is active in sending scientists and liaison teams on space missions to other star systems that are not yet a part of the Galactic Federation. It is an organization of fully conscious and peaceful people and constantly on the lookout for acceptable civilizations that meet the requirement for membership. Their scientific teams do an extremely broad analysis of cultural, scientific, and spiritual criteria. Effective March 21st, 2014, the Pleiadians, including the Anunnaki, are no longer governing the planet. A number of their descendants still live among us who are among the Illuminati power elite. This includes virtually all the royal houses of Europe. Much of the chaos in the financial markets is now being caused by the confusion created by this transfer of galactic rule. No one entity is currently controlling the affairs of the planet. Even though this happened 5 years ago, many are just now being made aware of it. Okay, it happened more than 5 years ago. This article was written. Oh, so this article was written in 2009. How about that? The power elite have been busy building outposts on Mars and the Moon and in underground shelters on Earth, all the while believing that a cataclysm event was imminent that would destroy much of the habitable surface of the planet. The Incarnate Alliance was helping them with all the technology needed to do this. They were doing what they could because it was believed that this was going to be a power-sharing thing, and this new Earth would become the home of their new hybrid beings, meaning humans would be the slaves. Excuse me. Through a very clever maneuver, an Earth female from Peru implanted a suggestion in their group minds that they would become sick and die of a disease that only exists here on Earth, and within several months they packed their bags and left the planet with all their hybrids and returned to their home world. Suddenly, all the preparation for what was to come was for naught, because soon thereafter, a transfer of galactic control went to the Syrians, who wanted a different paradigm. The Syrians govern through self-responsibility, self-empowerment, and self-rule. Our only individual responsibility will be the free expression of ourselves and full consciousness beings. Due to the new technology which is being provided to each of us to protect Earth, we will no longer need to work to survive. The only people that are going to lose in this transition are the power elite, the rulers, and the authorities. They will have to adapt just like the rest of us. The meek, indeed, shall inherit the earth. All right, that's the main part of the article. Now, the final sub-article here, it's called Summary. A summary of everything in this long article, which took me 5.5 hours to critique. The summary says, the reality which we have been given in the media and politics is highly manipulated and has almost nothing to do with the truth. As such, we should not assume that we will ever be told the truth by those that manipulate the media and control the politics of this country. It is clear that we've been led astray by self-appointed overlords whose goal is to rule the world by controlling access to our past. Without an understanding of whom and what we are, we cannot escape from this game of deception. There are no accidents. Everything happens with a high degree of synchronicity and purpose. We are meant to see the truth in our reality when we are ready. This is all part of the game of polarity integration. No spiritual development can occur without it. We're here to experience the polarity, integrate it, and return it to the Creator. We've been given the freedom of choice to choose fear or love. In fear we are slaves, in love we are free. We are here to choose love and respect for self and others, or fear to manipulate and control others, and be manipulated and controlled by others. To not choose is still a choice. There is no escape. Fear is bondage. It accomplishes destruction and is more devastating than nuclear weapons. The days of destruction will end. As we get closer to the end of the cycle, all weapons of destruction will be deactivated. Some of us will experience fear, others a quiet peace in knowing. We have been given great powers, which, depending on our own personal state of development, allow us to defy all of the natural physical laws. Through the ages, people have been tortured and killed when they discovered this. These powers include telepathy, precognition, remote viewing, telekinesis, teleportation, levitation, and healing. These powers exist within the universal laws. It is our goal to find our higher consciousness, to be aware of our awareness. We are gradually sliding into these higher dimensions where the power that we already have becomes greater, where we merge with the rest of creation and become co-creators. Intent is visualized with feeling to completion. The focus is lightly held and confidently expected to manifest. We create our own reality by our magic. We are expected to join the cosmic community as equals by the end of this creation cycle and claim this planet as our own. As such, this knowledge is essential to our development. We are about to enter a new world of sentient beings. It's a new world of new rules, where the individual is empowered. It evolves, a matter vibration dimensional shift where we will no longer be in harmony with our current world. Our job is to clear our heads of all the conflicts and fears and get ready for something amazing and wonderful. In the higher planes of existence, what we imagine will manifest nearly instantaneously. If we enter it in fear, we will get fear in the form of terrifying events and cataclysms. Our worst nightmares will manifest. If we enter it with love and peace, we will get heaven on earth. We will create a paradigm of truth, free expression, and unlimited expansiveness that was our birthright from the beginning. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Many alien races have been present on this planet for a very long time. Many more have come to help us through this stage of our evolution. Some also trying for control and our planet. The coming changes may occur rapidly and generate chaos among those not prepared. Help is available to those who request it using the universal laws. Those that are not ready to move on will do so. Those that are not will move to another planet to continue their path, this time with full knowledge of whom and what they are. They have been monitoring each of us by taking tissue sample and analyzing our dreams. They know who will be ready and who will not. An inconvenient harvest, is imminent. We are a tiny integral part of creation. Every bit is amazing and wonderful as the whole of creation. To do the bidding of creation is to create. To do the bidding of creation is to live forever. Enlightenment is an opening to the one consciousness. It can only be accomplished by the self for the self. We must each search within for our own truth. It is the seeking that polarizes the process, that defines the path that we are to take, i.e. the internet is Pandora's box and Google is our friend. Well, actually, you should use Startpage and not Google because Startpage is not linked to the NSA. Bill Hicks said in 1993, all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. We are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. And Albert Einstein says reality is merely an illusion, although a very persistent one. And last quote from Marcus Aurelius, who lived from 121 to 180 AD, says, without an understanding of the nature of the universe, a man cannot know where he is. Without an understanding of its purpose, he cannot know where he is. Let neither of these discoveries be hid from him, and he will not be able to so much as give a reason for his own existence. Truth is stranger than fiction. All right, that's the last article. And there is a select bibliography here that has 95 different sources. I'm not going to bother reading all of them because I don't think it's really necessary. You guys can check out those sources and agree which ones you resonate with and which ones you don't. But here's a little In5D addendum from Greg Prescott, the editor of In5D.com and a good friend of mine. The addendum says, please remember to use discernment whenever reading anything. While I find most of this article true, there are some things that I do not agree with. Well, I will agree with you on that one because I did disagree with a few things here, and I did make that clear when I critiqued it. But anyway, Greg also writes, this article will serve as a basis for continued research within the many fields that it covers, and will hopefully inspire the further awakening of millions of people. Well said, Greg, well said. So, folks, that is the end of this article. I'm glad everybody was willing to tune in. So, on the show, at the end of this show, and on the show on Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, the show will be normal Wednesday time. I will have Jennifer W. Stein, who is best known as the executive producer for a well-known Travis Walton documentary, which is one of the most eye-opening UFO encounter and possibly ET encounter cases ever done. We'll talk about that, the Travis Walton case, and a few other things that Jennifer Stein talks about. She's also talking on her website. It says she's a proponent of some sort of gun control. I mean, I guess I might as well just for the hell of it talk about that on the show with her because is she aware that events like Sandy Hook and Columbine were staged by the powers that be to justify disarming us? Well, she's not, then I guess it'll be my job to wake her up to that. It seems kind of hard to believe she wouldn't be aware of that, but maybe the gun control she pushes for is just to keep guns out of the hands of people that are flat out crazy, and the totality of the circumstances require that their right to bear arms be taken away from them because they're human murdering lunatics. Maybe that's the kind of gun control she talks about. But mostly it'll be about Travis Walton, 18 Encounters. That's Jennifer W. Stein this upcoming Wednesday, 2 days from now. That is the end of this show. Namaste, everybody. Andrew Fisher signing off from Nature of Reality Radio. Enjoy the rest of your trek throughout infinite consciousness.